What is up, guys? Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz back again with yet another video. Today, we are going to be, I guess, responding, sort of digging into a little more our past retrospective video. We're going to be more looking forward, looking into 2021, and sort of where Weiss is going from here. I'm joined today by Andy and Brian, both of who you met before many times.
Hello, hello.
What's up, guys?
And I'm just going to jump right into it. So, I guess we got a lot of discussion going. Maybe it did its job. Maybe it didn't. Getting people talking. Our 2020 retro tier list. I have that in sort of like scare quotes here because it was truly sort of a tier list looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hyper competitively focused. We had a lot of people on the cast. That was our bad. Tried to overcompensate for the very few things that happened in 2020 by having all of our past guests on, and I think it kind of muddled the message a little bit. I think, I don't know if Andy and Brian can agree here. I will stand by the tier list that was created by that video is meaningful, but who it's meaningful for might be a little like what's the right way to put this? Like very targeted audience, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the tier list we came up with in the retrospective video is very. It's a microscope looking very closely at like the top tiers of the game.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I know later on in this video we're gonna like zoom out the microscope a little bit and look at like the whole like expanded picture. I think that was just maybe a little bit confusing since last year and the tier list before as well we had like every single set on there. So having it kind of more like hyper focused on like micro splitting up the top tiers into like multiple like top tiers. Like obviously Sword Art's not a D tier set, but it's like if you zoom in far enough,
right?
Yeah,
it might be. You know what I mean?
The very small subset of the entirety of this game that we call Weiss Schwarz.
Right, and I know this is something that I brought up at the end of the retrospective video, but even as a pretty good Weiss Schwarz player, when I look at another content creator's tier list, I know what we were doing, making a hyper competitively focused tier list. But I mean, I have Mob Psycho. I'd like to look at a tier list and say, okay, how does my favorite content creator think that this set stacks up to the other sets?
Yeah.
And as a set that just came out, people were coming to our channel looking at the video and saying, hey, where's my set? How does this compare to the other sets on this list? And I think that's half the problem.
Yeah, in that we very much missed the mark. And I think there was a lot of hyperbole in that discussion because there were so many people. Hyperbole is a nice tool when you're arguing with your friends and you're trying to get a point across very quickly. But when you say stuff like, well, like Dalfade and Kotosuba are the best, like nothing can contest them. Like
right.
That's like it's meaningless when you're trying to have a more in-depth discussion when you're not in a closed group. And I think that weirdly, because we had so many guests on, it became more of a closed group argument.
It was a group of friends talking and just arguing
at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. It's just with so many people on there, it's like it's good that we get like a lot of like competitive people giving their opinion, but by the time we got to like ReZero Memory Snow, it was like 3 hours.
Yeah,
it was like midnight and people work tomorrow.
We were burnt out. We spent way too long comparing Sword Art Online and Adventure Time.
It was like small things like that. Yeah. So before we sort of move past this tier list, I want to try to reconcile some of the more like competitive opinion, just sort of like show where this tier list comes from, where like sort of like where these opinions sort of like grow from, or whether or not you agree with it, just sort of where the idea to sort of like drop things off and move on came from before we go and dig into everything. very quickly. So the big thing I think we should discuss is how much the meta has narrowed at the higher end this past year. I think this was a record year for English Weiss for like sort of meta narrowing. I think the big thing to take away from it is like the older sets when you don't have access to things like decompression, so like stock swap, shuffle back, Bumio, things like that. You get into these situations with sets, even when they're in like, as you'll see when we get into our tier list, like the B or C tier. If you don't have access to the effects, you can become bullied in a way when you're playing into them, where these other sets can, since they have a lot of very good costless abilities, can sit on mountains of stock and sort of make your life a hellscape in a certain way if you're playing in a very like hyper competitive event. The other big part of meta narrowing is that non-interactive abilities are sort of like the norm now. They're not the exceptions. You don't have to like play things like Bang Dream just to get non-interactive level 1s like we had to in the past. Sort of like every set has a non-interactive level 1. And the less interactive your deck is, the more consistent it is. The less your opponent can sort of put something up against you, the more reliably you can get your stuff off every single game. And the abilities that do interact are more akin to stuff like Aaron, where when Aaron gets his one reverse, where he has to interact with you at level 1, he gets a super big payoff for that. And these new sets that are coming out, when they do have to get reverses and they do have to do stuff, they have a really big payoff, whereas other effects, they just get what the non-interactive combos are getting now, which is a big part of sort of like bringing the meta a lot closer at the top end. The other thing is that sets are so good now that targeted anti-abilities aren't enough to make older sets, stuff like Anti, that has notably anti-heal and anti-salvage. Even with those abilities, it's not much of a threat to the higher tiers. And that's just again, I think that goes hand in hand with power creep, which is the last part here, is that sets are getting so good now because we're only getting the best and most popular stuff. The stuff that's selling the most overseas is what's coming over, or the stuff that's the most popular anime property, which, let's be honest, more often than not ends up being the most powerful stuff is the stuff with the popular anime property.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of leads into that, where like these sets are so strong now, where their profiles are so power creeped, even for their utility cards, that even if you have a very strong anti-ability, like anti-salvage and like Turo Loveru or Contact Collection or anti-heal, that I'll just play my stock healer, or I'll just salvage on my last attack. Maybe I don't even need it because my cards are so good that turn. I'll live cross turn anyway against you. It's like just sort of how the meta's going.
Yeah, like someone who plays a lot of anti-meta decks, like in other card games too. The thing with like anti-meta cards, because you got to remember, your opponent's whole deck is built around doing what they're trying to do. If you have like anti-salvage, let's say, or anti-heal, right? That's like one small factor of your deck compared to their entire strategy, their entire deck's makeup. They're better at standbying stuff out than you are at denying it. So like if you're trying to like bank on an anti-meta tool, it better be really fucking good.
And you better have a lot of good stuff around it too. And we'll sort of dig into anti-abilities when we talk about like how we decide to like bring a set to a tournament. And I think that was another big like sentiment against the tier list, is like people were saying it's like, oh well, like I never bring this set to an event. Like why does it matter? It's like, no, that stuff does matter. We need to dig into why and stuff like that. And Memory Snow's a really good sort of snapshot into why you'd bring a deck to an event or why you wouldn't bring a deck to an event. So we'll touch on that a little bit later. And I think the last point here with meta narrowing is that unfortunately, that when your metagame warps around very few things, and if we pop back to the tier list very quickly, we can see like Dal, Fate, Konosuba. When your meta warps around 1 to like 4 whatever things that are like very, very good compared to everything else, where there's like a lot of drop off, things have to tune against that. And when that happens, the stuff that isn't as strong as that stuff that's right under it really struggles to not only play against that top, but also keep up its core game plan. to like a certain point where like you make so many concessions to play against the like very top that like your core just sort of falls apart, and you have to take so many hits that like, you know, your deck's so hampered at that point. There's like some problems there. You have some problems keeping up to like not only play against the wider field but also play against those top sets. And that's what really causes the most narrowing. When there are very few extremely good things, which is where we're heading in the immediate future. Of course, that'll change as more things come out and things like that. We don't want to be too doomer, but that's why the meta has narrowed so much. And I think that was one of the biggest forces behind sort of chopping off the list with that past one. You guys got anything else to add with that point?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Yeah, just trying to move through that part. One last thing we want to talk about before we get into how we pick a deck is how we sort of like consider sets for bringing to a tournament. So when you're hyper competitive and you're trying to sort of min-max as much as you can, the first thing you have to sort of examine is that Weiss Schwarz is a really punishing game where the variance is like through the roof. So if you bring something that's not like the best of the best, your risk is a lot higher, regardless of your reasons for bringing it. So if you're really competitively minded, you're going to focus in on those like relatively very small percentages. Try to increase your win rate. So when we're ranking sets in a tier list, we're sort of like weighing these extremely small percentages in like stability when you're bringing a deck to a tournament. So like we're talking about like super small fractional like differences between sets, where it's like in reality like the difference between like Dal or Fate or Konosuba, it's like fractions of a single percent.
Mm-hmm.
But like a fraction of a single percent, when we're talking to people who are like super competitive, it's like 1% to someone who's super competitive in a card game is a super big deal. Like if you talk to go to another player at some plays like Magic or something like that, and you say, "Oh, if you bring this, you'll have a 3% higher win rate." That's like insane. You know, that's like super relevant. But for a game like Weiss, where there's a lot more variance, I think that sort of thinking kind of falls by the wayside a lot of the time, and it doesn't sort of land to the wider field. But that's sort of where this tier list comes from. Is like we're comparing these like very small incremental advantages. Where we're talking about, I would rather take this deck, or I would rather take that deck. Very small percentage points in favor of one or in detriment of another. And I think the other thing is, like, a lot of people say it's like sort of any set can win. And I don't think that's the same as any set is likely to win. So just because Weiss has high variance, and you can like sort of win off the flop, as a poker player would say, just because that variance exists, I don't think that like playing for small gains and small win rate percentage increases is like irrelevant. And I think the fact that there is a large sentiment one way and there's a large sentiment another way, when like you see a tier list like we had in the last video, the 2020 retro, where it's sort of chopped off and it's sort of focused in, like Andy said, a microscopic snapshot. It feels very wrong. It feels very weird. And another thing with that is there's a big thing in Weiss Schwarz, I think at every level, and Andy and I discussed this recently. There's a very big difference between people who are building for higher ceilings versus building for higher floors. Where the ceiling of your deck is the most explosive high roll scenario, where the floor is like, this is what I can execute every single game. And people who build for higher ceilings are much more common in Weiss Schwarz. Focusing in on the ceiling and like the effectiveness of the ceiling of your deck is more of the norm in Weiss Schwarz, at least in North America. I don't know how it is for other metas that are playing English, but in America there is a very big push for focusing on that very high ceiling and building for those more explosive scenarios versus bringing up a deck's floor, playing something that's very consistent. Because decks that are very consistent are very likely to dominate Swiss before you get to top cut. But if you don't have a very high ceiling on top of that, you're going to struggle to keep up when you're playing at the top tables because you don't have that push to sort of send you over. On top of that, and of course, like that's on a sliding scale with like player skill and stuff like that. Players who are very good can leverage a high ceiling while also like keeping their floor up to a certain way through their gameplay, which is there's always the fabled player skill diff in Weiss Schwarz, which does exist, like it does in every trading card game. But like I guess as an example, a rogue strategy could be considered like a high ceiling strategy, since they like will dismantle very specific opponents that they're expected to see. But if there's a very like super consistent, like mid-rangey, very high floor kind of deck, and they run into that's sort of very generalized, that rogue strategy might not be able to pull through because their ceiling isn't as what they've built their top end of their deck to do isn't as effective against something that's more like all-rounder. So that's always something to keep in mind.
Just like that's like one of the inherent maybe like a flaw with tier lists in general is like you have something that's like super like highly tuned to like beat a certain meta. Like I know one of the comments on the retrospective video, and something we mentioned in the deck tech that's going to come out later this week too, for ReZero Memory Snow is like ReZero Memory Snow can be like really good against standby if you build for it, but you take a lot of like there's a lot of concessions you have to make in deck building to get that. You make the deck a lot worse overall to make your one matchup a lot better. And but of course, like you have decks like this that'll sometimes like knock down a whole event, right? Let's say, for example, 80% of the room is playing Standby Data Live, and someone shows up with this like really heavily teched ReZero deck, like Memory Snow or something. Then yeah, it's like completely possible that that person could like top 8, even win the whole thing. But it's still like a rogue strategy. If you take a deck that's highly tuned like that for like a big large event, and then go into your locals and play against people playing just random stuff, you're gonna lose a lot of games.
Definitely, yeah.
In that sense. So you know what I mean? Like. I don't know. I don't know what point I was trying to get across. I just wanted to talk about Memory Snow.
No, I think. I mean, I think that feeds directly into the last point here. Is that this tier list that was made on this past video, and sort of this mindset in general, right? Of like very, very fractional like increases in like your return, which is like you can extrapolate to be your win rate. So if your win rate is your final return, so like these very small increases in your win rate are like really only like this way of thinking is only valuable when you're talking about like regionals and like higher levels of play, like and higher sort of where your field is very wide. It's wide and it's like more normalized because people are driving out to play to an event. The event is by nature more competitive. You wouldn't enter in the event if you weren't at some level competitive. So like when you're talking more about your local, like smaller events, even like shop challenges, your local meta takes prevalence over all of this thinking. Yeah, you want to have a high floor, and yeah, you also want to have like some level of a ceiling. You want to strike a balance, but you also want to make sure that you're answering what your locals are playing. You know them better than we do, and it's up to you to sort of corner that.
Yeah, and that's why some decks are so high on the tier list, because they have high floors and high ceilings. They can survive all game. They can be data live, and then they can just destroy you at level 3, or I guess even at level 2 with standby.
Yeah, which is sort of like I just wanted to touch on these points because I think stuff like this is sort of understood but not spoken about a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Or sort of like
I think Weiss also, just like as a card game, like I know we compare a lot to Magic since all of us have played Magic before, but like if I'm picking a deck to play in Magic, I'm not picking to play a certain deck because, dang, I think I really like Primeval Titan. He's a real cutie, and I just love playing cards with him on them. They just make me feel happy playing this happy little green dude. No, of course not. But like, I mentioned before, like, oh, what if 80% of the room's playing Data Live? But that's never going to be the case, I don't think, with a game like Weiss. Even if you have a deck that's like head and shoulders above everything else, which Data Live very well might, it very well may be.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't playing Weiss to play a strategy. They're playing it to play an anime, to play like a because they have like a bond with the series they're choosing. Like that's a large percentage of the player base is like, someone might be like, I don't care where Love Live is on a tier list. I don't care what you say. I'm gonna play my Honoka waifu deck and I'm gonna bring it to this tournament and I'm gonna play it. Because that's why I built into this game, is because I'm like, oh my god, there's a card game with Honoka from Love Live, and she can be my deck, my waifu. Not my actual waifu. That was an example. I was speaking from Tyler's perspective there, I think.
No, he's a Maki stan.
He's a Maki stan.
Yeah,
but like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, there are a lot of players like that
playing this set on the sole basis of the IP a lot of times.
I think most players start this game thinking like that.
I know I did. Yeah, I did too. I was just like, oh, I got Kotari waifu.
Yeah, I built Nico waifu from Love Live as my first deck.
And then I fell in love with the mechanics, and now I'm a detestable Spike who will sleeve up even anime I despise, like Data Live.
I mean, the mechanics of the game are really cool when you like really like.
But that's not what
into the
hooks
game
people.
And invest yourself into it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like more in the middle stage where it's like, they like the mechanics of the game enough that they really want to, play it, but they still want to they're still going to play something they like.
Mm-hmm. Like, there are a lot of people I feel like too who don't get past that. This game is an RNG coin flip. There's no skill, no player skill involved kind of mindset too. So
yeah,
I player wall there.
That's like, I think that's that's rough depending on who you have locally to play against. I think it's a big thing, and that's why like content is so important. Like from all people, like not like anything outside of like your local group that you have to like reflect on is like really valuable. I think at least it was when I was starting. I know that like when I was playing, it was like I would like go to locals, then I come home and I like watch a bunch of top tiers videos and stuff. To like sort of learn about how other people would evaluate cards, things like that. And I think that's like really valuable when the game to some groups can kind of be like, I just want to slam waifus and turn them sideways. And I get there, and when I don't, well, it's bullshit. I got sacked. So it's like, it's that can be kind of rough. Moving past that point can be kind of rough. So it's important to sort of note on these things, like sort of where, I guess, like sort of like the mindset where this chopped off tier list comes from. It's like mainly like stuff on these two slides.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of that sort of thought process, which I think is maybe more common in other trading card games, less common in Weiss Schwarz by a lot, for those reasons that you guys just talked about.
Yeah, I think so. But I truly think there's merit to like both. I think like the zoomed in microscopic tier list it tells like a really important story. A really important message about like where the game is at, competitively speaking, like at the moment. But I think like an expanded, more macro tier list, the forest, not the trees, is important too, because
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Even for the hyper competitive people like yourself, Carmen, you still. You'll still pull out lower tier decks and play them.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't let the tier list impact my fun. Too. Yeah, I don't let this tier list impact my fun. And I think a big thing that this tier list that we made misses is that even though those sets aren't on this list, you can't ignore like pretty much like you can only ignore the most outdated of outdated. Like you can't like not know what, like, I don't know, like recent example, like you can't not know what Fake Grand Order does. You can't just like know what's on this very small microscope and expect to do well. Weiss is a game that very much, even at like the highest of high levels rewards you for knowing everything
Right.
about the field and every
It's matchup
unique
knowledge.
option.
That's every card game.
Every
Matchup
card
knowledge.
game, yeah.
Mhm.
There's just a lot of matchups in this game.
And I think that's the part where this tier list really misses the mark, is that for someone who's not already familiar with all that stuff, whereas all the people in the video, they assume to be like very high level players, very already familiar with all that stuff. It was like, yeah, of course, like, you know, everyone knows this. Well, everyone doesn't already know that, you know. You gotta sort of broaden your scope a little bit.
Yeah,
Everyone knows that Fairy Tail sucks. Sorry, Fairy Tail fans. You can go ahead and dislike the video now. Your set sucks. Move on.
I definitely do think you can go into like a regional level event and expect the vast majority of your games to be against these sets here we have on this zoomed in tier list. But you definitely can, if you're not prepared for it, be caught off guard by something a tier lower that we're going to look at here in a minute.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on here, I just wanted to bring up very quickly, and this is a good example, Memory Snow and sort of how we, as competitive players, will evaluate sort of like what our pick is for like a regional level tournament or higher, like even a shop challenge, right? We're sort of like weighing the benefits of the set versus like the negatives of the set and like how it will play into what we expect to see. So sort of like at a glance here with Memory Snow, we got some basic stuff here. Like non-interactive combos, level 1 and 3. Our opponent can't stop us from doing what we want to do. We got the anti-burn 1, so that's good against stuff like Attack on Titan, Kaguya, so we're looking at the sets that our unique abilities will target. So for the anti-burn 1, that's like AOT, going forward Kaguya, sometimes that'll be Love Live Sunshine or Persona 5, depending on what they reveal. And also any set with cancel burns, any set that has that ability. The anti-burn 1 will turn off. Also anti-standby. So we expect to see a lot of standby. Obviously, like Dal is like the big boogeyman in terms of like big standby decks coming up. Minus 2,000 to front times the cost of the standby. Important to remember like the specifics of the ability, how that will play into specific decks using that strategy, so specific standby decks. And then after that, sort of generalized stuff here. So we got very good deck manipulation. We have a ton of like top check up to 3s. We have ways to make sure that we refresh very well if we bring Memory Snow. Make sure that we always get to that good refresh when we have great timing, and maybe like get really good clock compression and stuff like that. And depending on how our games go, and we could really like ride entire games off of those advantages. Our Rem finisher is really good against high compression decks. So if we expect to see something like a lot of Fate, or any game where things go super well, right, and they have a lot of stock-rich games, we can really punish them with our Rem finisher, rip through their whole deck, their smaller deck, because they have a lot of compression, and then also throw all their climax in the clock, which would be pretty cool. Looking at other unique things, so there's an early play merge package, which is super efficient, throws out this really cool hex-proof Super Wall that can completely ignore our opponent's field if we expect to see like super massive stuff for some reasons, maybe something like Bunny Girl, where it's sort of like you have to have dedicated bounce tools or something like that to get over the center lane, things like that. We can just ignore it. And then ReZero in general, best anti-change profile in the entirety of Weiss Schwarz. So if we're going to queue into a meta that's spamming all the early plays, maybe like Slime, early play-centric strategies, Love Live Sunshine, maybe we consider bringing Memory Snow just based on that merit that they have such a strong anti-change counter. And then we're going to look at maybe some of the negatives for bringing Memory Snow to an event. We have to deal with that massive stock crunch to support our Rem finisher if we're playing Book Pants. They're paying that extra 2 to get that in there really hampers the strategy a lot. You're not as explosive as you'd like to be a lot of the time. Your level 1, if you're not playing the anti-standby stuff, or even if you are sometimes forced to go under standby decks, or even like anything that's tanking at level 1, because you're only getting to 6,500 on attack in the level 0 to 1. So anything that's trying to box you out, maybe you're having a little trouble there of what you expect to see, that can influence your decision. And then also just in general, that Memory Snow maybe hurts a little bit at level 2, and to shore up that level 2, we have to spend a lot of deck slots and a lot of stock, which sort of negatively affects our finishing turns. So if we want to play the Super Wall, we got to dedicate a lot of deck slots, and then that has the option of like if your opponent has some way to sort of either not care about it or maybe ignore it in some way, even if it's hexproof and big, they you kind of can't clear their field either, and you're not really doing anything, and you kind of get into a do-nothing battle. Maybe that's either good or bad, depending on what you're queuing into. And then Amelia early play, if she doesn't hit, you're spending a lot more stock than you want. So if you're going to queue into a meta where the mid-game is very important, from level 1 to level 2, going into your level 3, maybe Memory Snow isn't that strong of a pick. And I think the last one here is you really have to examine how your anti-effects queue into what you expect to see. So while Memory Snow might have anti-ping, which targets obviously like AOT, Kaguya, then we talked about decks that maybe coin flip for burn ones or maybe cancel burns. Those decks, on average, especially Attack on Titan, have the ability to sort of just farm Memory Snow smaller characters a lot of the time to generate a lot of advantage. So maybe just turning off that one part of their top end, even if they rely on it a lot, like AOT, just isn't enough because their cards are so big and they generate so much value off of getting those reverses. Maybe it's not really that good. Maybe they just win on vanilla swings by outvaluing you throughout the game. So that's something to consider. And then the anti-standby stuff, which we're playing to like target stuff like Dow. Well, Dow, when they're unrestricted, they play that costless Toka because our anti-standby deck, our anti-standby card targets cost. From level 0 to 1, what Dow can do is they can play to put out that 1/0 Toka early, maybe even multiples. And when they get that out, they can hard play their 1/1s from hand. And then once they win even like 2 or whatever lanes on defense, maybe they have to side you in 1 or 2 lanes when they get their stuff out. After they have those open lanes to swing into, they don't really care about that minus power anymore. So maybe against Dow specifically, that anti-standby isn't as strong as it would be into something like maybe like Fujimi, something like more traditional that doesn't have those costless targets. So it's more about what exactly you're targeting. And then, of course, and I think Andy and I talked about this in the deck tech as well, and Andy mentioned it earlier, when you play that tap 2 Rem Brainstorm, you're giving up a lot of other stuff in the deck, where the self-tap Brainstorm really helps you carry the mid-game, lets you sort of mash your face on your Brainstorm if you have to sort of get yourself to level 3. But when you can only Brainstorm once per turn, you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot a bit for helping yourself in one matchup where maybe that deck can kind of play around you, even if you're presenting that option.
Yeah. It's alchemy. It's equivalent exchange. You give up something to get something.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Mamros have been watching Full Metal Alchemist lately. It's a really good show. I forgot how good it was.
It's pretty good, yeah.
FMA is pretty good.
But yeah, trade-offs in deck building for sure.
I think the big thing to note here is that sometimes the anti-effects aren't as strong as they read. Where you think like, oh, I completely shut down this thing. But a lot of the time, those decks are so good, or they have options available to them where, as long as your opponent is cognizant of that, they can do a lot to still make your life hard.
Mm-hmm.
In those matchups. You're not going to win off that one thing. There's a second and third level Yomi there after you present that anti-effect. There's a lot more going into it than just slam and forget.
Yeah, unless the hate is truly like backbreakingly oppressive, like you still have to like play your strategy too. It's like even if you can build it to like beat Data Live every time, you still have to play into the rest of the field too. And if your deck is so highly tuned to beat this one deck that you can't even function in a normal game, maybe it's not worth playing that set instead of just playing something higher tiered.
Right.
But
Yeah.
fret not, Memory Snow fans. We put out a deck tech about this. Check it out when it comes out.
That'll be available Friday. Should be this Friday. I'm going to rush this video out, so should be available soon. Andy really digs in there. He did a lot of work on Memory Snow. And for as much as I'm like sort of pessimistic about the set, it's very good. You can quote and print that. Memory Snow is very good.
Well, let's go right on my fucking wall, dude.
Yeah, but I think that because I think we even talked about it in the 2020 retrospective video, like anti-effects were brought up, and they just really aren't enough anymore by themselves. And I think they were in the past, and that's like a really big sort of departure and sort of a note of like how far Weiss has come.
Yeah,
That, like, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say we talked about it in the context of Kantai in particular, where the hate effects can be good, but you need good cards to go along with them, and Kantai just doesn't have that.
At least not in English. If they had if they had fifth phase, I think that the sort of 8-door memory focus Kantai that like focuses anti-heal could be a menace. But we unfortunately do not have that support in English.
Not in English, yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to give sort of a snapshot of sort of how very competitive players will like evaluate what they bring. Like these are the boons, these are the negatives. This is how it will play into this. Maybe this one thing isn't that good if my opponents do this. Like what do I really expect to see, and how will it play into that? Sort of the last part of the original tier list. And now we're going to move on. We're going to talk about the wider field. So outside of our original tier list, who's left? A lot. There's a lot of sets left. I've sort of loosely grouped them here in sort of sets that we consider modern, where they have modern effects, modern profiles available to them, and sets that are unfortunately a bit dated. They're missing a lot. And again, if you guys are interested in any of these sets, whether they are modern or dated, please check out our Rush Rundown series. I will link the playlist in the description. We cover all of these sets extensively, except for some of the very newer ones that haven't had tournament rep yet, like FGO or Overlord. But outside of that, we have pretty much everything available if you want a snapshot of what these sets are all about. But yeah, I've sort of broken them down here into sort of 2 big categories. Modern sets, notably, I think it's like, what is it, like plussing combos and plussing brainstorms, I think are the biggest, what is it?
That's at least what I consider. When I look at the modern sets, like, these sets are functional, they're playable, you know, yeah, maybe it's not the best deck in the room, but you could take it and you could compete on, like, you would be, you know, you wouldn't be fighting with both hands tied behind your back, you know,
Right.
like you have plussing level 1 combo, you have a level 3 combo that is a finisher of some kind, and you have a brainstormer. It's like enough to like tread water in this game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Angel Beats never learned how to swim, so
I mean, they can send
no brainstormer.
They can send 40 cards to memory, though.
Do they have a brainstormer?
They have.
I don't know. It's not the point.
Operation Tornado. It is a brainstorm.
It is, yes.
But yeah.
But yeah, I feel like pretty much anything they come out with nowadays, though, is like in the modern category.
Yeah, for sure.
Hence the name modern.
So many.
We're seeing True Ricky in like almost every set recently. Combos to plus uninteractably in a lot of these recent sets.
Yeah, and as that becomes more commonplace, we'll see, unfortunately, things slip into the dated category where maybe there will have to be a new marker of what makes you modern. But for now, 100%, as long as you have plussing brainstorms, plussing combos, and like something unique about your set, you can play the game. You can play the game pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be slipping into dated so much as it's going to be just like a really bloated, all-encompassing like mid-tier.
Yeah, I mean,
lower mid-tier or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there will be some things that are better, that get even better tools, and some things will fall by the wayside. Maybe like some sort of semi-modern tier between these two. But I think for a while most of these sets will be passable.
Yeah, like even like a couple years down the line, I think you could still play something like Nisekoi, like Idolmaster,
Mm-hmm.
like Original Love Live, and it's like they're still going to be able to tread water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unless something changes drastically about the game.
I feel like there would have to be like a big like mechanical shift. It'd have to be like Vanguard tier, right, where they like
Yeah.
add a whole new mechanics and
They
shit.
just like revamp the game, yeah.
Which they just did recently. Shoutouts to Vanguard. Completely revamping its game for a third time. Thank God we don't have to deal with that, am I right?
Bushiroad, please no.
Don't say that, dude. Don't.
Yeah, knock on wood.
I hope not. Oh my god, that would be terrible. Oh.
Yeah, please no overdress for
Please
Weiss.
no, please.
But all right, well, like moving on here, I think before we show like sort of our expanded tier list, we need to talk about what makes what tier, because I think it's been pretty ambiguous, sort of like what the cutoffs are, and I want to just run through these very quickly, like S through F here. So an S tier set, they have options no other set has, and they have them in spades. They have a ton of them. They're easily accessed. They don't have to concede a high ceiling to also have a high floor. They're hyper consistent. They can always pull off their strategies, and they're always also very explosive, no matter what. And then I think the most important part of it is they define the meta, where every other set on every other level has to consider them while they're deck building and what their options are to combat them. And if you meet all those criteria, you're an S tier set and you're above the rest, because you are defining where the meta is going. Because
I think that's the biggest thing is the fact that it's like everyone else is like building around you.
Mm-hmm.
I think defining the meta game is the thing that makes something S.
Yeah, that's the most important part.
Because like a lot of the A tier decks are like really like on the same footing as S.
Yeah, they have all
Almost.
the tools they need to like be really good, and they have like maybe a single or like a couple like very strong things that they can do. That like even the things above them, like they can't ignore them. Like no set can ignore like what AOT can do, right? Like no set can ignore what like even Adventure Time and stuff can do. Like those are things that need to be considered. They are notable. But they usually have like maybe like one specific like flaw or one drawback that can like be exploited by like not only like their own contemporaries, but like what's above and below them. They have like something.
I feel like maybe a good way of framing it too is like going off the tier list we had before is thinking like if I'm going to like I feel like if any of us were going to a tournament, any of us in this call, I feel like you're not building to beat slime. But you're building to beat like Konosuba or like Data Live. Like you're not really going out of your way to prep for slime. It's a very, very strong strategy and very consistent, very powerful. But it's not so all powerful that you have to like warp your game plan. There's certain decks I won't play into a competitive field because Konosuba exists, because Data Live exists. Slime's very good. It's definitely like top echelon, right?
Yeah.
But it's not making me say, well, I'm not going to take this deck because Slime exists.
Right. I mean, when deck building, you still have to consider, you definitely still consider that Slime is a deck.
Yeah, maybe you can like add on to what I said, Brian. I didn't want to. Maybe I said it like not the best.
No. Just to add on, Slime is the top tier decks are. I think I think it was Andy that said it in the retrospective call, but the top decks are like meta warpingly unfair, and that's why they're as strong as they are. And other decks coming into the meta to play against them absolutely have to consider that and keep that in mind. The decks in the tier below them, in the A tier, still are powerful, but they don't have the tools to be quite as disruptive, quite as overpowered as the sets that we've deemed S.
They're not oppressive.
Right.
They're not oppressive in their strength.
Exactly.
And like that sort of goes. It kind of like tracks down to B as well, where like they have most of what they need, but they're usually like missing a crucial thing, like whether it's like decompression or like a specific profile, or like they're like way too reliant on like needing a reverse or something at a certain level. And they usually have like maybe one thing that's unique about them, or the thing that they do have is like a dated version of something that something else has. And they usually have like a couple like weaknesses where like things can like really punch through them. But like they're still not ignorable. Like you can't not know what these sets do. You can't really not know what anything does. But
I think the difference between B and A is like B is like they're still really, really powerful sets, really, really competitive sets, but they just aren't as well rounded as like the A's.
Mm-hmm. Or just like not as like really up there in like that one thing that they're pushing. Like they're not as they're like relying on a more dated version of something, or they're just not as breakout. When we get down to the lower stuff, it becomes a little bit messier to sort of define what makes what. But C, I think that we can say it's like it's missing a large amount of what the things above it have, or it's dependent upon like a very single strategy that the things above it can like deny very easily. Whether it's like needing multiple reverses or like needing a specific board setup to stick or things like that. Those are easily taken care of by the things above them. And they usually have a lot of exploitable weaknesses, and some decks at the higher tiers, whether they be like A, S, or even B, might be able to just like completely ignore what they're doing entirely and just kind of fishbowl into them. That's sort of what happens when you get to these disparities between sets, at least these days. But it's not too bad. They're definitely not super bad. They're definitely stronger than a lot of other things.
They're fine. They're good.
Yeah, they're totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the D and F tier, you start getting to have some problems. They're missing modern tools. They might not have brainstormers. They might be completely dependent upon setting specific boards or getting reverses or doing something else. And when they don't get them, they fall flat on their faces. They usually are reliant on outdated profiles that just have been straight up power crept by other stuff. And this is where you get to the point where other decks are able to actually completely ignore the fact that these sets are their opponent, where their opponent, what they actually are doing does not matter that much versus what they are doing and if they are executing correctly. And if they execute correctly, it almost doesn't matter what set you are playing when you get to this point. And F is just even worse than that. It's just outdated. Unfortunately, lacking support.
Fairy tale. If you're F, you're fairy tale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. F's in the chat.
Even if you got something strong, like I think like Log Horizon has Shiro or whatever, like that's not enough because the rest of the set is like
not functional.
Yeah, totally unfunctional.
Yeah, they just have like a good card, but it's not nearly enough to carry them.
Yeah.
Have you read some of the cards in Haruhi? Haruhi's level 3s and events are amazing.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because they can't field cards.
Disgaea has a lot of really, really fun and really cool tools like Winged Slayer and stuff too, but everything else is just so trash that it unfortunately doesn't matter. So Disgaea 5, Disgaea 6 set Bushiroad, please.
Disgaea mobile set.
Just print a fucking promo for Haruhi, just a brainstormer. It can even be a bad one. It can even
have
be like
that,
rest 2 draw.
Gotta get that power up set.
That's not in English.
Mixed language. Live your dreams. Live your best dreams. All right, but like a couple quick things before we get into the actual tier list. So we just wanted to note. So the distance, like we did order our tiers this time around. There was some argument for not, but we decided to order them. It is more fun that way. I concede that. The distance of sets in these tiers is like really, really close. Like we're splitting hairs.
Mm-hmm.
If we were actually to rank within tiers, like with any sort of data, we need so much like data We need to pull for a ton. We need to make a matchup chart, like maybe you've seen for fighting games. Like if you've seen like Smash or Street Fighter or something, they have like the like +1 or like the +5 to -5 and like what your matchups are, the other things like relative, so that you can actually get like a spread of what you're expected to see. And we just don't have that amount of data, and we'd have to like poll so many people to get that much data, and then there'd be like issues with like reliability of data and things like that. So it's just our opinion of where sets are within the tiers. The tiers themselves are more important, and we outlined sort of what those tiers mean. I think that's important. Another thing, so Weiss techs are never like unplayable. That like doesn't happen. Like even the older stuff, you have to be so outdated for the set to be not fun to play. And like we said, as long as you got a plussing brainstorm and some good combos, you're basically all right. These kinds of tier lists, even the more expanded one, it's like only a guideline for like really competitive stuff. And don't let it stop you from like playing sets you enjoy and having fun with the game, because you can always slam waifus to the board and turn them sideways. If that's if looking at the art is what makes you happy and you just want to play, then that's totally fine. This is only for like sort of like more competitive minded stuff. Don't let it stop you from having fun.
Unless you're Fairy Tail.
Unless you're Fairy Tail, yeah.
There's no fun in Fairy Tail.
Yeah, that's where you get to the outdated of outdated. It's just it's unrewarding. It's unfun. you're just struggling so much that the fun is lost, even if you really like Urza. The other thing is like, so the middle of the field, like the like B C tier, I think that's so much better in Weiss than it is in other games. Like you feel so much more functional than you do when you're playing bad decks in other card games. Well, not even bad, just like middle of the road decks. You know
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, just like bad's a strong word, but like when you're not playing the best,
as long as you're playing a modern set that can execute your game plan, you have climax combos, you have plussing zeros, you can play the game.
That's really all you need. Yep.
Yeah. And like another thing is like if your set has a super unique effect, there's always a chance for you to like build around that and make like some sort of crazy play. Even if you like totally build to that ceiling, you can. There's always a chance for you to like do some crazy stuff.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, that's Andy's favorite.
Yeah, there is.
we love the spicy decks.
And another last thing here. So like tier lists are just like one small group of opinions, like in the scope of a very large global community. We're just one small group from Pittsburgh. Our opinions are not indicative of like the greater field, even though we might have a lot of experience between us. It's still just one group of opinions. Even with 11 people on the group, still one group of opinions. Notably NA. So I think that there's actually a huge difference, and you can see this. I believe Kevin tweeted it out. You can check on his Twitter. I'll actually link the tweet in the description about how different the spread and opinions were between like NA, EU, and Australia, which are the three biggest regions for English format. If you like want to see the breakdowns of like how different those regional metas like sort of rated each set, where it was like NA was very middle of the road, EU was very optimistic, and Australia was very pessimistic in their ratings, and I think that's really cool. And I'd really like to get like a more globalized like group on for maybe a discussion and how like regional metas differ, because I think there's like some really crazy stuff there to discuss. I remember speaking with Darcy in Japan about I believe it was ReZero, and it was just like, yeah, it's really interesting. He was saying it's really interesting that like NA and EU really like blue yellow ReZero because we tried that deck and we never liked it and we sort of dropped it very quickly. And it was just like very different because we talk about ReZero in the West in the English meta and people are really high on blue yellow all the time and like how it's a very consistent, like very like high power mid rangey deck that's like very resilient. And it's very interesting to sort of see those regional differences. That's just one small example. And we'd like to get some content like that going. It's just like scheduling is so rough for us to get that going. But we want to try. I'm gonna try to reach out and get some of that stuff together. Maybe we can get some late night recording, at least on our end, to get some groups in for some good discussion. because I think that'd be a lot of fun, and it's something that's not talked about enough. I think it's known in like the more competitive spaces, but never like discussed and brought forward a lot of the time.
That would be a really fun discussion video to make.
Yeah, and have to have some like very directed talking points to keep it from being like our last video. We'd have to really like plan out exactly what we wanted to talk about, like very, very discrete examples.
Yeah, I really like looking at decks from different regions, like just in general, because sometimes they just have like they're just like they have that spicy card, and you're like, whoa, it's crazy. I wouldn't even think of running it, but I totally see it.
They see the things no one else sees.
I love that in Magic. I always look at I always love looking at the Japanese deck list for Magic, because they're usually running like something really spicy.
Oh yeah, they just play Primeval Titan because he's cute.
Full circle. But alright, we can show the tier list now. So this is our expanded 2021 speculative tier list. Speculative because we do not have events as of right now. We don't have any data to back this up on. This is just our speculation.
I'm gonna pat us all on the back though. Pat.
I like
think
this
is
list.
a very. I think. While this is just our opinion, I think it's a pretty good opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how this list looks at this current moment, at least.
If you skip to this part in the video, I would like to add the caveat that the rankings within the tiers are very, very close, to the point of almost like it's just our pure opinion. It's very close within the tiers this time around. I think that there was argument for our other tier lists where the bottom of A and the top of A were like very, very meaningful. That's not to say they aren't meaningful here, but it's definitely closer within the tiers this time around.
I mean, if you compare this tier list and the original one that we did like a week ago, it's like the top tiers are laid out like exactly the same. I think pretty much.
For the most part,
you know what I mean? It's just like condensed. Instead of it being S A B C D E F, whatever, it's just like it's combined into like S A and like half of B.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we can sort of like
I don't know how to put it. Yeah.
Go through here and talk about. I guess we'll start it being down. Well, you know what? No, we'll briefly run through the S and A. So S, we have Dal, Konosuba, Fate in that order. We'd have to move Konosuba up. We're just staying in our lane at Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz. Konosuba's wild, 5-door, 3 pants, or the Darkness deck, whatever you want to play. Even it doesn't matter. Konosuba's really good.
Yeah.
We can get opinionated. I think Fate's a lot better. I mean, that's a lie. I think Konosuba's a lot better than Fate.
Okay.
I'm still kind of low on Fate, but after the big long discussion in the retrospective video,
yeah, Fate's still like a cut above the rest.
You guys definitely talked me into it, but
no, the Shiro Clock Encore just makes the deck so powerful. Makes your bombs immortal. Makes all of your level zeros plussing.
There's a reason that card is like just deleted into existence in JP. I don't want to talk about Dal anymore. We got a whole set review about Dal.
If you want to hear us talk about those, we spent 2 hours talking about those sets in the retrospective video.
And
I think it could be worth talking
about 5-hour set review. Okay.
I think it could be worth like a couple minutes because like we mentioned earlier, like this stuff in S tier, like the difference between S and A is like the S is like really format warping and like over centralizing, where the A is like really solid, very strong decks, but it's not necessarily as warping. So I think we should touch on like what about Data Live, Konosuba, and Fate Stay Night, or what does each of these 3 decks bring to the table that's so over centralizing and putting them a cut above the rest?
Dal, it's like the resiliency of every build. I don't even think it matters. I think you can even play the more aggressive builds. I don't think it matters at all. I think the card profiles are too strong. They're a marker of power creep. So sorry if this is like the same thing you've heard in a billion other videos from me. But you know, like they're just that much better than every other set. Like you can play 8 standby, you can play choice standby, you can play book standby. I don't think it matters if you're running these cards in any combination of the 3 choose 1, where it's My Little Shido, 1/0 Toka, and Kurumi Finisher. If you're running any combination of those 3 cards, God forbid you are playing all 3, you are playing a deck that completely defines where the meta goes because of its ability to adapt, its ability to overcome, its ability to very quickly turn situations in its favor to where like it sneakily gets the steam to like just totally run away with the game. Like I talk a lot about how, and I think this was brought up. I was talking about in the Remote Fight Discord with Isa about how you can. There's a lot of Adachis now, and you can Adachi someone's 2/2 Toka if you're still at level 1, and you can like try to crack back at them that way if they're playing the standby build. But then when you do that, the Dao player gets to scry on their first attack, which dramatically increases the chance that they like scum cancels and like elongate the game an extra turn. And every extra turn Dao gets to play the game, they're like running away with it. And that's like one very small example. But like the way that those 3 cards interact, no matter what way you put them together, creates a deck that like really like determines the flow of the metagame. Like and what every deck has to do to play against them. There's a reason those 3 cards are on the pick list. I think it's like a very perfect way to limit the set in a way that still makes it good. But
yeah.
Doesn't make it impressive.
To me, I think it's the Kurumi. I think it's the level 3 Kurumi.
Kurumi's insane.
The fact that card, every good deck has a good finisher, right? But there's a common denominator in most of the other like A and S tier finishers. And that common denominator is that you can set up for it. You can like plan for it. You can play around it. You say, okay, I'm playing against Slime. They don't necessarily have a finisher per se, but they heal and compress a lot, so I'm going to go into it expecting this. Or you run up against like Konosuba or something, and you say, okay, well, I can't like rely on massive amounts of stock compression and kind of rest on that to like get me there. I kind of like have to, you know, be a little bit more lean with my resources because they're gonna always just reset my deck anyway. But like for Data Live, I feel like you can't really say that because the fact that Kurumi has 3 effects instead of just 2, it just creates like a perfect spider web, like a perfect blanket to cover every option. For every deck state. If it only
she sees every future. That's why she has the clock eye. Very flavorful.
Yeah, I guess she should just be absurdly broken because she has a clock for an eye. That's
I mean, was there any further thought?
I should have watched the show. Whoops. but no, like if the Kurumi only had 2 of the 3 effects, like pick any 2, I think it would be infinitely more manageable.
Agreed.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's the fact that, especially unrestricted in English, the 3 modes on Kurumi combined with the 3 modes on My Little Shido just make the set so consistent. They can just do whatever they want whenever they want.
Not even counting the 1/0 Toka for more
and you throw the
defensive
Toka
builds.
and it just gets even worse.
Yeah, even a more aggressive build that opts to play book can play all 3 cards very well. So like it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, you know what's fucking ironic? We talked earlier about like, oh, like anti-meta tech cards, you know, most of the time aren't good enough, or a lot of the times aren't good enough to make it to like the higher tiers. Meanwhile, Data Live has the My Little Shido event, which is like the pinnacle of all like anti-meta cards.
Yeah, My Little Shido is unfortunately a card that looks at, I think, even a portion of the B tier and below and says, you don't get to exist because you have to invest in a card that I can remove. And I only have to spend 1 card to do it.
You know what? I think it's like a good case study though, right? It's like, you look at anti-meta effects like ReZero Memory Snow and Kontai and say, okay, well, they're not like necessary. You have Kontai, which is just like really it's probably not good enough to like really bring to high competitive event at the moment, right? And ReZero Memory Snow is like, if you really want to, you could, but you still have to like overcome a lot of other things with the deck. Right? There's other things you got to account for, but you can make it work. But the power level where something has to be like anti-meta to really, really make a dent in the game is Data Live.
Yeah.
Is the My Little Shido event. I think Data Live really has proven true with that. Because look at I know this is an English tier list, but the English is becoming a lot more homogenized with JP meta as we move forward, as we keep getting like the cream of the crop from JP. But like the JP format was very standby centralized. I don't think I'm wrong in assuming that. Am I, Carmen?
At one point, yeah, it was.
It's like all early plays and all standbys, and then boom, My Little Cheeto and Kurumi comes out, and now people are saying like, is Rem early play a good card anymore in ReZero? Can we play blue yellow ReZero anymore because My Little Cheeto?
Yeah. Like the only reason
I'm not trying to single out just ReZero.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's like that's the reason where it's like, oh, the green deck is such a boon to that, because if your puck gets dunked, you only spent one stock on him. Like, it's not like Rem where like I invest all this in protecting this card and I like have bath time down and I'm like playing my whole game to like scum compression off this card. Whereas, like, it's like I'm playing green, I'll just slam a puck, one stock, one card, we're out of there. If he gets dunked, he gets dunked. He's also a 14-5. Cool. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make, though, is, like, comparing Dow to the other anti-meta decks, because Dow, in a sense, it is an anti-meta deck. It's
in a
like
way,
what
yeah.
a good anti-meta deck looks like, right? Like, comparing it to Memory Snow, right? Memory Snow, you can do some really, really powerful anti-meta stuff, but you have to like really commit very hard to it.
And Dow gets it for free.
Whereas Data Live, it's like playing the Shido event is so fucking free.
Yeah, you don't have to make concessions.
Like even if like look at other anti-meta events too. Like Konosuba has like the Konami Code event. Very, very strong, well-positioned card, but doesn't see a lot of play because of all the concessions you need to make to play it. Data Live, My Little Shido, you just fucking throw that shit on everything. It's Frank's hot sauce, man. You just throw that shit on everything. or Australian and European viewers like, what the fuck? But it's like not even a concession to play it, because if they're not playing standby, you're not stuck with a dead card. You can just you can just look top 4 cards in my deck, turn it into anything else. Or just grab my level 3 finisher. It's just like in the matchups where it's good, you can use it and cripple your opponent. In the matchups where it's not, it's the easiest thing in the world to cash it out and turn it into something else.
Exactly.
And that's what makes an anti-meta card powerful, is it has to
be that good. It has to be
that good, yeah.
It has to be that modular that like it's not dead in the matchups where it's not. Because if you dedicate all that shit to like say anti-standby Rem or whatever, where you're not really dedicating it, but like you're cutting out your self-rest brainstorm. So like now your mid game is worse. Now your resiliency is worse because you're not able to brainstorm twice a turn if you absolutely have to. Like you have less ways to like sort of keep up in your other matchups that aren't standby focused, where that effect is dead. Which is just like we said before, it's like shooting yourself in the foot just to have a bigger gun in another matchup. Like,
and I think a lot of the reasons, like, getting down from the soapbox here, like from the Dell soapbox, but like looking at like the other 2 sets that are up there that we have in S with Data Live, Konosuba and Fate. I think those sets have the tools that deal with Data Live the best, probably. The stuff that both of these sets are relatively, I feel, unaffected by what Data Live's major anti-meta strengths are.
Yeah.
And Konosuba and Fate both have very oppressive things about their own strategies that they pressure the lower tier decks with, or not just the lower tiers, but like anything below them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Like Carmen, we always like hype up the 5-gate deck, but I think that's like a really good example of like something that
it has more options than anything to finish the game. Like it has the most options where it can, I think, literally outside of like the Kurumi finishing board, where no matter what your deck state is, there's always a chance for them to deal explosive damage if they have like double Kurumi and an Icy Tail. Whereas like I think Konosuba is on the same level in a different way, where it doesn't matter almost what you've done, you only can do your best to like make them as awkward as possible for them, but they'll always find a way to like dismantle you somehow and like find a way to swing in for the best numbers for the highest chance to just straight up kill you. From as low as like level 2. I've killed people from 2-0 with new Konosuba because like they actually can't play around everything I'm able to do because the deck is able to pivot on a dime at the top into the way that is best like able to kill you. And that's the strength of the 5-door 3-pants build. Is that like no matter what you've done, no matter what counterplay you've performed to try to hamper Konosuba, it's not like Stock Soul where there was like only 2 ways that like things could go wrong. You were either in an okay deck state already and your opponent threw all their resources at damage, or your opponent threw resources at decompressing you. Whereas new Konosuba has like 4 or 5 different lines it can take to dismantle you, and they're all equally good and very different. Where it can kind of pick you apart at the top, no matter how much counterplay you've done. You just can really just do your best, but instead of doing a 2 out of 3 like you could against Stock Soul Door, you're doing a 3 out of 5, you know? Like, there are a lot more options. It's a lot harder to fulfill 3 out of 5 than it is to fulfill 2 out of 3, in terms of, like, ways to play around what they're going for. And I think that's the strength of new Konosuba, as well as their mid-game just being, like, generally extremely high quality. Like, their early to mid-game is, like, very high quality, very good early plays, lots of resiliency. They heal a lot if they want to. Like, I think the list runs, like, something absurd, like somewhere between 9 to 10 healers. Like, just, like, ridiculous levels of healers if they want to play them just for heals. That's another strength of the new list. So, like, they can be resilient and they can be aggressive at the top. Doesn't really matter. And, like, of course, like, the Obero is its own implication. The fact that it ignores your opponent's board while guaranteeing its plus. Able to pump soul and also pump power. It's, like, not lacking in any department.
When I brought up the whole 5-door deck, I was talking mostly about, like, the Oboro combo being able to, like, side attack Data Live's big level 2 boards. Avoid scrying and all that stuff. But that was a good 5-minute explanation also.
Yeah, you know, the normal.
Brian would also tell you that like stock swap Fumio is like that alone is like just oppressive enough.
Two climax Fumio is super powerful. The only other set in the game I'm pretty sure that has that is OG Love Live, which does not unfortunately have the cards to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have Mega Man.
they don't have Mega Man. They don't have the Summoner. They don't have Summoner Burn 5.
Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, Fumio Burn 5 is like one of the dumbest finishers ever, and it doesn't even need a climax. And it only costs 3 stock to slam down. You only need 4 stock to do Fumio Burn 5, like, on your turn. Like, and I think that's one of the most disgusting things. Because Fumio Burn 5 and 3 vanilla swings can end games from, like, 2-5. Like, if things go their way. And no other set can do that. I think Fate's a little trickier.
Imagine if Honoka could burn 5.
Fate is a lot trickier to pin down. I think a lot of it comes down to Avenger. Having every card from your 0 to 1 be a field plus, if you so choose it to be, is extremely strong. The fact that clock encoring when you know your deck is low on climaxes in first deck is literally free compression, because clock compression is free. If you have the ability to, like, dictate it, you, like, always get really disgusting first deck refreshes, and then every refresh after that you don't take damage. And that, I think that we've spoken about this before. 2-1 refreshes are like naturally broken. They break the rules of the game. They're pay 1 heals that also have other effects. Fate's notably cantripping.
Yeah, the Fate draws a card. Pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. They have other tools that like no other set has. A 1/1 stock swap that can like directly punish stock chart strategies at level 1. Just like actually just get out of here. Like all your clean compression gone. Forcing refreshes when it shouldn't be able to. Force refresh, one of the only sets that can effectively play that profile. Because they have the bar filter, they always have access to it. They can do dumb shit where like they clock these events that they might not need, and then because they're always like pretty much always like almost guaranteed to trigger a bar after they've become compressed, grab their events back. So like they like clock their events and they shift them back to their hand on their attack step. Like pretty disgusting. Like they always have access to them. They leverage their 8-bar trigger lineup in disgusting ways with their clock bomb. The clock bomb with clock encore is really disgusting into a lot of the field, especially below it. It forces them to play around it. Any costless combo that's also trying to hold field just gets instantly dumpstered, and then clock encored, and they have to deal with it again, which is like really gross. Again, a lot of it just comes back to the fucking Avenger. I don't think the combos in Fate actually matter at all. I think I'm on that train after a lot of discussion with a lot of people. The combos that you play in Fate aren't the thing you care about. It's the rest of the deck.
Definitely not. I mean, the Stalker has a on reverse search that gets to 6,500 at level 1. It's that's not important. I mean, you
always get to 1 first. Who cares?
Sniper. Yeah, get to 1 first. Snipe your reverses. Get yourself rolling. But it's
doesn't really matter.
Yeah, not that important in the grand scheme of things for Fate.
Azusa, free fresh.
I think it was Jason. It was either you or Jason Carmen. One of you guys mentioned like in the retrospective about like for how defensive Fate is, right? So for how good of like healing and tanking up like damage wise, like not winning board per se, but even though they lose board all game and they really just focus on like running clean and healing, the fact that they can just, even though they're conceding field every turn, still end up with like a full hand and be able to slam climax and 2/2/2 every turn. Yeah, it's just nuts.
Yeah, they like slam climax every turn and then they're a defensive deck. It's like just ridiculous. No other deck can do what that deck does, and that's why it's up above the rest. Yeah. I want to move a little bit quickly through A because we spent a lot of time on S. I think that's important. But we've talked a lot about these sets, and a lot of these sets we've also done like set reviews and deck techs and like honestly deep dives on some of these at this point. So I'm gonna break these down real quick. Just run through them. You guys stop me if you have any misgivings with what I say. Slime, okay. Top of A. Unparalleled resiliency, memory compression, which is unique to the English format. Hyper consistent early game. Disgusting tools like Chloe. Just really good set. Just heal spam. Doesn't have like a very notable top end. Notably has trouble with Fate. Konosuba can dismantle its deck state like anything else, but it does have the memory, which is the one thing Konosuba can't deal with unless it techs for it, and Konosuba's way of dealing with memory doesn't impact Slime that greatly. So that's sort of its niche, and because it's that unique, it's like right at the top, right underneath. Frozen Bonds, the same sort of strategy as Blue-Yellow, but even more consistent. Also generates memory in a similar way to Slime, but it's a little bit slower. It does it sort of in the mid-game rather than the early game. Slams down early play boards that are just as oppressive as the old Blue-Yellow list, but not as intensive on your resources, notably with a hexproof support that cannot get dumpstered by any of Dal's stuff. Puts out super massive boards that even a standby deck like Dal cannot deal with, even with the 1/0 Toka back row. Very strong, also giving ReZero a true finisher in the Amelia, so they can actually push for game.
I love the Amelia finisher. I fucking love that card so much, dude.
Yeah, I've come around on that card. Card's
the fact that like
Bat Healer.
You don't need even if they don't leave you a reverse, you still get something. You always get something. I love it.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Super, super stable card, and that's the name of the game. If you want stable decks, Slime and ReZero, I believe we're talking about like Book Bar here. You want stable, non-interactive, very like resilient decks. Slime and ReZero are your go-tos. Take your pick. In a way, they're very similar.
I do have a yeah. They're both kind of like just very like stable, well-rounded healing decks.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a question too. Like I don't really play a lot of ReZero. Like I'm gonna be playing a lot of new ReZero, like the green stuff when that comes out. But I've really never messed around too much other than like playing into it, like blue yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you are like a big proponent of that deck, Carmen.
Yeah, deck's crazy.
What do you
used to be?
Well, I think a lot of people. I think blue yellow is still going to exist.
Yeah, it will for sure.
Whether or not blue green's better than blue yellow, is neither here nor there. But like, I guess it is here or there. Like, I don't know where would you put blue yellow?
Blue yellow would be either the top of the B tier or the bottom of the A tier, somewhere in that Sal memory snow zone.
Agreed.
Blue, yellow, or any, we can just say set 1-2-1 only ReZero build, no matter which way you decide to take it. If you're playing Felt, well, I guess the big thing here is Felt. It has to be blue yellow because Felt and Rem on the same turn, which is what you're playing for. You have free fresh, which not a lot of sets have access to. It's gated in a weird way, but also has the payoff of just like giving you an instant spike in compression that a lot of decks can't deal with. And I think the biggest thing now is that that's not true anymore. I think that the decks, its contemporaries here, can deal with that spike a lot better than they ever could. And at that point, you're banking on the strength of your anti-change counter and your ability to sort of edge yourself over at the level 2, which previously you could always do against even the best sets, against even like Konosuba and everything back then, where AOT had to get really lucky. Even AOT had to get really lucky with a wind trigger at that point in the game to really shove themselves over what you were trying to do. But blue-yellow now, these sets have so many ways to just deal with you or ignore you in a way where, okay, you're compressing really hard, I'll just play for some stock swap at this point. Because even Slime has stock swap, right? Where, like, they can even play into your anti-change counter, strain your resources a little bit, and then continue to play them because they're going to the bottom of the deck. They'll eventually get them back, or they can hold masks to rip them back out. Can sometimes not even be that good, and then they can slam you with stock swap or dedicate resources to that as well, where they're running leaner than you, because even though blue-yellow ran very lean, not lean enough compared to something like Slime.
Yeah.
So I think it's just getting that strategy where spiking very hard at level 2 and like getting that instant spike of compression when you have things that can instantly not only remove those field threats, but also deal with the compression in one like fell swoop. Like I think like Fate and Konosuba and Dao all can, like at a similar point in the game. Even its other like cards can, or other sets can actually do it as well. Now, notably like Slime, even Kaguya can do it. Like that level 2 spike doesn't matter as much anymore. When
yeah. Just something I wanted to bring up since like
yeah, for sure.
We made the difference between
I love that deck. I mean, I still queue
between Frozen Bonds and Memory Snow. I know a lot of people are big fan of the Felt and Reinhardt.
Blue yellow,
like
honestly,
top, yeah.
I think is still a great pick until Dal comes out, where things narrow a lot.
Yeah, level down makes life hard for that deck.
If you're playing
I
in a
imagine
more,
that would be really annoying into that.
Yeah, if you're playing into a more like if you're playing into a competitive English only event and like either no one has Dal or Dal isn't out yet, blue yellow ReZero is still a great pick. That deck is extremely good until there are things that just like auto dumpster it that are more widely available at 2. Like, I don't mean like everything can auto dumpster it. I mean that like if you play into Dal and you hit level 2, they go, okay, if I've sculpted it all, your board's gone and your compression's also gone. And then you go, okay, well I invested my whole game in that, so I can't do anything anymore. Which is unfortunate. Yep. Moving on, Love Live Sunshine. It's like right up there. Chica Yo will always be absolutely disgusting. But the issue with Chica Yo being that it is naturally inconsistent, even when you play for absolute consistency. You can top check and top check and top check and still reveal zeros, even when only 4 of them shuffled back into your deck. Experiences that Andy and I have both had at this point.
Yeah.
You can thin and thin and thin and thin, and it doesn't matter sometimes. Deck's still super good, though. I think it deserves its place. It's right there. Chica and Yo can never be bad. They're too good.
See, like, I agree with the positioning of Love Live Sunshine there, but like on the tier list, I think it's in the right spot. But I think like really breaking the deck down, it's like not well positioned. I really think Chica and Yo Mirai Ticket is just so broken, it just carries the entire deck. Yo carries the deck on her back.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Like, you just her
power thresholds aren't even bad, but it's like that's still part of the Exodia board, right? Like the Rico on the back and the Chica and Yo in the front. Like,
no. Let me rephrase. Nothing wrong with the Chica Yo Rico. That's fantastic. I just mean the rest of the deck around it. Specifically, I think the level 1, like, I think the Chica combo at level 1 is just, like, really not well positioned. When you have Konosuba with the Roboro combo, Attack on Titan with Eren, which is, still there and can deny your reverse, and, the bevy of standby decks that are coming around.
Most you at least trade with their level 1, but, like, what do you do after that,
But, like if they put fatty tutus in front of you, like, you can't
do anything.
Yeah, what happens if, like, because, like, I don't know, you can throttle as much as you want, but, at the end of the day, your Sunshine, you don't have a lot of zeros to work with a lot of the time. So an extended level 0 doesn't always work in your favor unless you're drawing very, very well, or you have ways to recycle your cards. Like spending all
especially
your
if you have a deck like Fate, they can like take the 0 game like very long. Goblin Slayer too.
Yeah, they do. They just completely dictate the way the 0 game plays out.
The pacing of the 0 game. So, yeah, like Chica Yo Rico's, I still stand by those cards. I think it's the most broken thing that's ever been printed into this game. I don't think Kurumi is even on that level. It's Chica Yo.
I think Chica Yo is really fucking dumb.
Yeah, when it high rolls, it's disgusting.
Just even when Yo whiffs, the Sunshine player still wins out on that interaction. Even when you anti-change them, even when you Adachi them, even if Yo hits nothing, even if you whiff the Yo burn, you're still paying 3 stock for 2 huge cards.
Yeah,
that is true. Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting, but I think the rest of the deck around it, just isn't that well positioned. But Chica and Yo is so goddamn good.
Attack on Titan, still good, still great. Notably, probably better against Dal than most of the other sets in the A tier. By a decent bit, because it scales over standby, at least single standby lanes, pretty well. Presents hexproof boards that notably dodges my little Shido. Also just can output a ton of damage. Into a standby field, AOT probably prefers playing back into the healer Mikasa at level 2, so that makes them a little bit more resilient in the mid game, because they're like playing a more board-based mid game. That can run over Dal's board for sure. The issue AOT has is that the other 2 sets in the S tier kind of bully it a bit now. Oboro is like a nightmare for AOT. Fate, the Clock Bomb, notably, is like one of the most stilted like 0 to 1 games ever, because Fate always guarantees it goes to 1 first. Refields Clock Bombs that have Clock on core, and then after AOT has neg that hard, they have gears, and then they start bleeding hand, and they bleed, and they bleed, and they bleed, and Fate doesn't care, and they've already set up their resources. They've already farmed as much as they need to, and things just go really south in AOT's direction after that point. So it's not its down matchup that's poor. It's the other two. But depending on what you expect to see, AOT could be a great pick. If it's actually more Dow, you're more favored than you would be if there were a lot of Konosuba and a lot of Fate. So we might see AOT continue to hang on, since notably Konosuba and Fate require you to have a ton of old cards that are extremely expensive, and Data Live is an out-of-the-box $300 monster. So
that is true, yeah.
Yeah, so we might see, because it pairs up fine into Slime, all things considered, and probably does, middle of the road, maybe I think 3-0, green 0 might be slightly favored, just because it's so resilient. And doesn't need
perhaps. I mean, I think AOT into ReZero is fine. AOT
it's probably
into Slime is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I think as someone who AOT was my main go-to tournament deck, but Konosuba and Fate is enough to scare me off it personally.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of other people who historically have good players who have historically played AOT will get sketched off it too.
Mm-hmm.
Probably,
much better AOT players than me, I feel, would also get sketched off it.
Kaguya, similar in what it needs reverses and what it does at the top end. Not at all similar in overall game plan. But in its positioning against the meta, sort of defined by those sort of pushes where all its level 1s need reverse in some way. But Kaguya notably has a really disgusting level 0 game against everything below it, in tier wise. Where Kaguya's level 0 is actually so good, they might be able to shove so much momentum from level 0 into the rest of the game that they can just blow sets out, no matter what build of Kaguya decide to play. Whether you play aggressive 8 Global Soul, or you play the hybrid standby door, whatever you choose to play. The level 0, I think, and the Kaguya finisher are what define the set, regardless of the shell you put them in.
The Kaguya finisher, I mean, it's just basically Mikasa from Attack on Titan. They're
defensive Mikasa. Defensive Mikasa is how I like to put it. I'm very happy the set ended up being well positioned, because I'm gonna spend a lot of money on Kaguya when it comes out. Lots of shiny cards.
I think the finisher in Kaguya, the fact that Attack on Titan and Kaguya have such a similar finisher, I think that is a big reason why they're we put them so close together.
So close in the tier list, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Goblin Slayer. I don't know what else to say about Goblin Slayer. Set is unbelievably rock solid. I believe this is the placement of Door Standby. I think that if you choose to play Priestess, you're probably in the B tier somewhere, just because pretty much everything can deal with you these days, incidentally. Unfortunately. But even then, I mean, the set is...
I don't think it's that bad for Priestess players. Yeah, I think the standby build's better, but I think the Priestess builds could always just pivot into the trial deck finisher anyway, so even if they answer the Priestess field, they're not all in on it like other slow ball decks.
Yeah.
It is just going to get worse, though, as blinks and level downs become more prevalent.
Well, hey, we'll get that set too soon, I believe. Anime Season 2 got announced.
Slime getting set 2 also, yeah.
Yeah, the initial reveals imply a Slime 8 standby deck that is completely different from the original deck, so that'll
give some nice variety.
Yeah, gonna move a little faster through these now. There's a lot of discussion there. Bang Dream's always gonna have all the things. It's always gonna be up there, but it's always gonna have things holding it back. Notably, band locking. As more sets come out, it's always gonna have that issue unless something ridiculous comes out. You can play the memory list. You can play the more fishbowl-y lists, like Door into Yukina, or Door into Mocha, Door into whatever. It doesn't matter. You can play I don't know, literally anything at out of the set.
Yeah.
Like, does it
I
matter?
have
Like,
all the tools.
they all can run Buns and Fumio and Free Fresh in the same deck, so it's like, does it really matter? Like, they always have the tools. You just choose what level of like explosiveness or like stability you want, and you throw the cards in the deck and you go. And all the new stuff they print will always be band locked, so it's hard for the set to like really blow up.
I think it's like always going to be like pretty relevant though.
Yeah, for sure,
Like,
because it's
probably
cheap.
lingering around that level.
Well, it used to be
like,
cheap
well,
for a
no,
time.
I'd say like it's still like a surprisingly good budget set though. But when you start looking into the band lock stuff, like
gets pretty
all
rough,
the individual band decks are actually like very, very solid.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Probably all B tier in their own right.
Adventure Time. We have it at the end here, but Adventure Time's an extremely strong set. Notably, it's missing decompression tools. The stock swap that it does have is off trait, off color, and extremely high cost for what the deck is trying to do. You can't support playing the stock swap and playing multiples of the finisher because of the cost of the finisher. Whatever build you decide to play, whether it be hybrid standby or some sort of global soul into choice finisher, you're playing the set for playing Finn and Jake finisher. You're trying to be aggressive. You're trying to burn out the game. You're trying to deal with compression by outputting enough instances of damage to chew through it all. And unfortunately, I think we're kind of all on the level that that's not enough against how good a lot of these sets do it. But it is still a really good non-interactive deck that also has unique profiles that can like generate a decent amount of memory. Not as much as Slime or 3-0, but they are there and they are incidental. Like, they're just good cards that also go to memory. So
Just play Turtle Princess.
Turtle Princess.
Oh my god.
Moving into the
Stop
B
talking
tier.
about Turtle Princess.
Normal Sal at the top. I think Andy and I are pretty high on Gara Sal, but I don't really think it matters what build of Sal you play. If you play a pile of Sal cards that like plays Yuki at level 1 and plays like some form of finisher and or opposition by the shield, you are playing Sword Art Online.
You can just get into anything whenever. There's stock swap, clock shoot, top check X, whatever you need in the set.
Standby, probably not relevant these days because it's prepped out by other standby decks that do what it did better. But like Yuki's always going to be good. Bar Sal is always going to be good, no matter what you pair it with.
I'm a big proponent of standby switch. I love standby switch.
I know
I think that can still keep up.
It's
That's
probably,
my opinion,
probably
though.
still fine.
Memories?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. That's all I had.
Memory Snow we already talked about. I think it's you could argue it above Sal or somewhere in there, but it's like at the top of B, bottom of A, somewhere there. It's an anti-meta pick, but when you're choosing the anti-meta options, you worsen your matchups against the rest of the field, which kind of slots it where it is. But we already had a slide on that, so I'm going to move to the next one. Madoka, I'm pretty biased towards Madoka's placement. When this deck pops off, this deck is ridiculous. The problem being, when it has even a slightly suboptimal game, it blows up. In English, there might be opportunity for this deck to thrive as a time scumming deck that scums out in turns. This deck is extremely, extremely good at stalling. It plays like OG Unbanned Fate, if you're familiar with the JP version. It heals disgustingly well, and then also like loop the free fresh. Has a really disgusting free fresh engine, but it is predicated on hitting brainstorms, that being multiple like 4 or 5 to 6 card brainstorms, but you still having to hit the brainstorms. If you miss one of them, it can fall apart very quickly. But the set is much better than it once was. Shout outs to all the Madoka fans.
I'm super pumped, man. I've been waiting to play this Madoka deck for so fucking long. I've had these. I bought Brian's Kyoko and Sayaka and Homura deck off him like 2 years ago, and I played it like once. Because every time I want to play it, they like announce a new set for it. And I'm like, oh, I'll just wait.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was finally gonna play it in English. Oh, it's coming to English now. Okay, I'll just wait another year.
but it has good
Fuck.
tools. I don't think it has like true decompression, but like it plays a very different strategy, so it doesn't need it. It's playing a stally strategy. Even in the builds that do opt to play like the choice finisher or whatever, you're playing a more stally game. But it does have like a very like high opportunity to like experience a fell case. But even then, it's very modern, so in more than keep up in those bad games
you have
against
all
things
the tools
below
you
it.
need to succeed.
Yeah, for sure. Alicization, I believe this is we're talking about the Riaz deck here.
Yeah.
It's
Book pants, right?
very similar to like old Yukina Bang Dream and strategy. You shovel your chips into Kirito, and you either get there or you don't. You have like a better mid game because you like have this healer that like ensures your finisher, and you have like these field encores and stuff. So you're like kind of better positioned than the old Yukina deck, but you don't have like decompression or anything. So you're another like, okay, like I'm not going to try to chew through your deck, or I'm not going to try to decompress your deck. I'm just going to try to like eat through it or whatever. You could like be ultra spicy and run like Yuki or Yui or something, but like that is like next level like spice tier. The only way to get that card would be to draw it.
I mean, they're getting stock swap and alicization too, so
yeah, we'll see.
it's coming.
I'm sure that'll come to English.
They also have the event that denies events and backups, which makes hitting your reverses at level 3 much easier.
Yeah, you can always guarantee that you get the reverse with Graham, which is good.
Bang Dream could always like shroud up one Yukina, but alicization just gets all of them just for free with the one
Field
event.
one for no reason, yeah.
But yeah, deck's good. If you want to see games of it, check out the WSI stuff. You can see Riaz play it. Deck's super solid. Deserves its place in B tier as like an aggressive sort of burnout deck. Beaufry. God, what to say about Beaufry? This set's unfortunate. It's so close to being like an actual breakout, like incredible set. But it's every build that it has is missing something. I've tested a lot. There's the 8 standby deck can be really crazy at like ramping out lots of bodies really quickly. They get ramps out 1/1s and stuff faster than pretty much any other standby deck I've ever played or ever seen play or ever played into. You can get stuff out there really quickly. You have like this cool field swap at level 1 with the standby, and then the deck success is completely predicated on how many woolies you can draw, which is the event that you have to hard draw, and that sort of falls apart. The sort of deck that tries to play kind of like into the Neg Soul thing, like you have trouble recurring your climax, and if you don't recur your climax, the deck kind of falls on its face because you invest so much in the maple. And like there's a smattering of other tools that you can use. I've been playing 8 book, the Milk Tea list, and I've saw a lot of success with it, but that deck is like, pretty vanilla despite being highly competent and has access to things like level down and stuff like that, and like good ways to pump soul and like go for full minute modulation. So I don't know what build will end up seeing the most play in English, but the set overall is very competent. It's just like every build has like sort of one flaw going for it that holds it back. So maybe we'll get a set 2. It got a season 2 announced, so that'd be nice.
The fact that it's a new set combined with like all the different ideas people are kicking around, I think for me it's the set on the tier list that's like I'm the most like how it pans out.
Yeah, it has the most potential to move.
So many different builds.
Very wild card right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
like everyone's playing different builds and trying new things with this. Like there's like a lot of potential, a lot of different builds to play.
It is the most like the highest percentage chance of any set in the B tier to move somewhere. Whether it be like it would only move up from where it's placed, I think, which is why we put it where it went. It would only go upwards from where it is if something happens.
You know why too? Because like all the builds are so different. Also,
yeah.
Right. Like if you look at like others, let's like look at Goblin Slayer or something, right? Like, yeah, the Priestess build and the Standby build, they're like a little bit different, but they're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, you're always on level 1 Goblin Slayer.
But like Beaufry, it's like 8 book, 8 choice, 8 standby.
Yeah, they're all
Mix
completely
and match,
different
like,
decks.
It goes in any direction.
They all play like rat drastically different like play styles. Some are aggro, some are very defensive. Very, very interested to see how people will play it.
The next, we got these 4 in a line. I don't want to like actually group them, but these 4 here are the standby decks. Notably, Fujimi has access to 8 standby. So if you wanted to play something that was super focused on standby and you did not want to buy Data Live, at least not completely because Data Live is in Fujimi, Fujimi 8 standby is probably like one of the most resilient. Like it ramps out fucking the biggest standby targets faster than any other standby deck because it can put out the 2/2 on its like second turn because it like clocks itself with its background, stuff like that, and just yeets that to the front row. The problem being that these other sets like either don't care, can deal with it, or delete it because it doesn't have like any way to ensure it keeps itself around other than power. Fujimi's main drawback being that it invests in power at every level, and we're in a meta where power is something that can be hand-waved sometimes, like a lot of the time, by the things above it. That being said, it does have 8 standby triggers, which is what separates it from the next 3 sets. FGO, Overlord, and Bunny Girl. These are all sets that wish they had 4 more standbys to put in their decks. Notably, FGO and Overlord play extremely similarly to the point where they're sharing many card profiles. The main difference being that FGO has access to a finisher and has different builds that it can go into, which is why it's above Overlord. Overlord is very sort of set on its standby door build, which runs like a nuke and a like a bunch of off finishers at the top. There is a wind like chance deck in there somewhere. It could be like anti-meta that runs like the bounce event and stuff like that. Like maybe that's something you could experience playing against Overlord, but I don't think that merits it moving like up or down within the B tier. So it kind of stays where it is. But mechanically similar to FGO, they both have Cocoitus. They both have like hybrid standby strategies. They're both playing standby at level 1. Notably, FGO has like a real on reverse level 1 plusing combo. Overlord is trying to set up a specific board that's a lot more difficult to put together than FGO just like slamming Ereshkigal and like getting maybe reverses and throwing Gil to the back row versus Overlord setting up a specific board and trying to swing with Coitus on the first turn. Bunny Girl kind of lagging behind both of these sets, unfortunately, without its second set. Playing standby at level 1 and just putting vanillas there and just getting like, you know, like standard stuff into fat targets without any way to confirm those fat targets off the top of their deck. They have no real way to dig into standby or things like that. They're kind of playing off the cuff, but still can be strong in the high roll. And they do have Futaba at the top, which is that bodyguard, which, you know, at one time people were scared enough to tech bounces into all of their decks because we were expecting Priestess and Futaba, and unfortunately had no events, and those decks did not get a chance to shine as much as they could. And now Mob Psycho, the new set, the newest set on the block, the English exclusive, has strong options, but unfortunately weak climax combos at every level. The climax combos are things to be desired. We mentioned this in the retrospective, but Adventure Time and Mob Psycho are almost inverse. Adventure Time has strong combos and is missing the glue, a lot of the glue to bring those combos together in a way that's like really oppressive. And Mob has a lot of really good glue and a lot of things that could really tie an awesome deck together and is missing the climax combos to like put on a pedestal to like sort of be brought together by its good deck cards and good glue. So over-reliance on reverse combos that also like are either only selective on one way or not selective, and then the only on-attack combo has its own issues. And it also has trait problems, which are hand-waveable in some builds, but the fact that there are cards in the set that you can't use and you can't brew with because of the trait restrictions are a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Persona 5, our baby.
Our sweet summer child.
Our Pittsburgh boy, Joker. It's yellow.
What do you mean our Pittsburgh boy? No one
We
plays
love him.
this.
We
What
love.
are you talking about? It's
We love Persona.
Brian
Would
when he was able to come to tournaments.
Okay,
and now
Andy,
John
we're
bought a second-hand deck off someone. Who
we're-
plays this set here?
We're infamous
Drew
for
has
shilling
it.
Persona 5.
What?
Drew has it.
Yeah, we're infamous for shilling Persona 5.
Yeah, we shelled it really hard in our
We
tier list.
did show it, but like no one plays it here. It's like a myth. It's like
Well, it's yellow and black, so it's a Pittsburgh set.
okay, you got me there.
But yeah, the costless wall is either ignored or directly answered by two of the most powerful decks in the meta. Only needs a reverse in one lane, which is very achievable against its contemporaries and even some things above it. But the markers are like losing their relevance. There are ways for either decks to just swing over them with impunity, ignore them. But Joker's still an explosive finisher if you can manage to set it up, and it's got really good deck manipulation. So strong set, but unfortunately in a poorly positioned metagame.
Yep.
Cardcaptor Sakura, always there, looming.
David's in the corner,
Yeah.
waiting to play you.
Set a lot stronger than anyone gave it credit for on release. The early play change packages are always have the ability to be very impactful. But again, we're in a meta where you invest in these things in your board, and your opponents either have things that are stronger than them, ignore them, directly deal with them in a way that doesn't expend as many resources as they previously would have, or just delete them entirely.
Yeah, you got to spend like Cardcaptor Sakura. You got to spend like a good bit of like effort and resources to get your early plays on the table. And some of the higher tier stuff just unfortunately answers it really cleanly nowadays. Also, both of your primary level 1 combos are like 6,500 on reverse Shimikazes.
Yeah.
Which are like,
It's okay. It's just not enough these days.
yeah, when there's so many ways to deny reverses at level 1 now, it can be problematic sometimes.
Yeah.
GGO. Very consistent 8-door lineup. Relying on an early play strategy that can pump out 3 2-soul bodies and 2 heals for only 3 stock. And not much else. That's all the set does. There are some spicier builds, all of which do, maybe equivalent, but, spicier versions of different things. But that 8-door build with the bombs at level 1 and the early play spam, it's consistent, and
It's
it does
thing that exists. Yeah.
it does pretty well against the other things in the B tier, mostly like either like 55, maybe like slightly either slightly advantaged or slightly disadvantaged against everything in B. And the stuff in A like kind of bullies it, and the stuff in S just doesn't care. The fact that it's running a bomb at level 1 is like notable when people are playing standby, but like if they just lose board and then eat damage and like they can't recover because they only get 1 turn at level 2, that's like bad news bears for GGO.
Yeah, that's rough.
I really want to see someone do something with Gungill though.
Yeah.
It's like an incredibly consistent set, like you said.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see it be something more than consistently average.
Yeah. Like
I want to
always
see like
there.
someone really take it to its max.
Got to play dual laners. Dual laners
Oh my
are the
god,
secret.
no, you don't.
Dual laners
That's-
are so good.
no.
You're
No, they're
immune.
not.
You're immune to stock swap. You don't know what's in there.
I mean, it's true.
Broken. Moving on to C tier. Excel World at the top. If AOT sees less representation, but now we have Konosuba in the mix. There's that's still a decent amount of reverse denial, which is the problem with Excel World. When you bank on getting those reverses, even if you don't need climaxes to generate advantage with Accelerate, doesn't matter how good the rest of the set might be. And Excel World's very competent. At least the door The climax is level 1. You play the door in the mid game, and then you play the wind at the top. Doesn't matter how competent the deck might be if you can't find those reverses. English is a lot more directed of a format. You're more likely to see the heavy hitters than you are in a wider field.
I think Excel World can kind of probably deal with Data Live probably pretty well, like Attack on Titan can, because like
they
AOT,
ramp a lot of power.
They can ramp a ton of power. And Excel World probably does a lot better against Fate than Attack on Titan does as well, because they don't really depend on their board living. They get all their pluses
On turn
immediately when the reverse happens. You don't need to like bounce back to hand or move around with a gear.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Probably does better against Konosuba too, because like if Konosuba, if they don't have an Oboro Megamine in even one lane, you
they
can snipe
stack
them.
everything on that one lane. Yeah.
Whereas like Attack on Titan, right? Like you need to get like a reverse in every
Multiple
single
reverses,
lane,
yeah.
right? It's not so much about getting a whole field of reverses. It's kind of more like a
single.
I always see
one.
Persona 5 as a type of deck like that, where like you just need one single reverse, and if you can get that one reverse, you're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And Excel World's just rock solid otherwise.
Kontai, like we said, the anti-effects when paired with just Prinz and Kashima or some other top end, whatever you decide to play. Unfortunately, investing in tanking at level 1 when you have to pay stock up front, and a lot of these sets have ways to just either remove that effect with a blink, or either bomb you, or just hit over you with costless cards that you didn't pay 1 on attack with a climax combo for. It's kind of poorly positioned. You can't really play Prinz, but you're forced to play Prinz because we don't have 5th phase, so you don't have other options to play. If we get another set for Kontai will probably shoot up by a considerable margin. Their card pool is still good. They're just missing those very important pieces. Their top end and their mid game, or their top end and their level 1 really, which none of which sort of hold up in this day and age, which is unfortunate. They also have those like Floodgate anti-effects, but without the right cards around them, they don't see the chance to make much of an impact.
I think Kontai could find a foothold for itself. I'm not going to argue it like above like higher position than where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I still believe it's kind of like maybe a sleeper deck of some kind. I just think like the builds would probably have to change up a bit from what they're running now. The Prinz combo just doesn't really cut it at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And their finishers are kind of weak.
Mm-hmm.
But the anti-effects are really strong. And maybe if they just switch the rest of the deck around a little bit, maybe they can do something. Like, I know there's like the level 2 combo, the row, I think, off a gold bar. Maybe you switch to that instead. It's not great, but it's probably better than Prinz at the moment.
Yeah, there might be something there. I don't know the card pool well enough to give input on that.
I've also seen some really like experimental spicy lists with there's this Hishimochi event card. Have you guys heard of that? The legendary Hishimochi.
That's the 8-door memory build. Yeah, that's very popular.
Oh, they run that.
That's very popular in Japan right now. When I say very popular, I mean like there's like 1 or 2 people who are playing this deck that is playing like 8-door. It's playing like the anti-heal change is playing this new like cost bomb that turns into a 2/1 and the cost bomb goes to memory. It's playing like Tashkent, which is the stock healer that goes to memory when it's reversed.
Carmen, are you sure we're actually talking about the same thing? I'm talking about the yellow event card, the 2/1 yellow.
And I was about to get to it. The 2/1 yellow event that goes to memory. It's playing all those cards in addition to the Hichimochi, where the Hichimochi is practically a money counter because you're removing many cards from your deck every time you play it. Which is like the idea.
That card's sick.
Yeah, we unfortunately don't have the cards to go around it in English. If we had 5th phase, we would get that. I think that deck would be pretty okay. but we do not. To Loveru.
I think it's really well positioned, but
compared to
power
the
level's
other
not quite
decks.
high enough.
Yeah.
You have like anti-salvage. Like you have like a good anti-salvage. Your level 1 combo is like actually competent. It's like a pretty competent combo.
Yeah.
It's like on reverse Shimikaze off a bar.
Your zero is just unbelievably ass.
Yeah.
Like you like punt the entire level 0 game.
I think the level 3's fine though.
Yeah,
the Yami finisher's like
Yami's always been okay.
Wind trigger's getting better and better. Hexproof on Yami is like actually really handy.
You punt 0 and you punt 2. That's the biggest problem with the deck. Like, but like the rest of it it's like good enough, right? Like, it's still totally fine. It gets really big at level 1, so like maybe you can carry your level 1 into level 2 because with the back row, you get that double combo with Taiyaki Key Holder.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because you get the extra 2,000 power. Your Mekons can swing in at like 9-5.
I think if you want to bank on anti-salvage, I think Talavru would definitely be the pick over Kontai.
Yeah, just because it has like, normal brainstorm, even if it's rest 2, and like some other stuff. It's running like bar level 1, which is like honestly like the thing putting it where it is. Honestly, bar level 1 is just hyper like the most consistent level 1 combo you can get. Right. I think
it helps shore up some of the other inherent weaknesses of the deck.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right here, JoJo. JoJo's so scuffed. So unfortunate. I think you can play for like interesting JoJo decks that are like unbelievably difficult to pilot in a consistent way and do have a lot of fail cases, but they do have things that they can do that are strong. I think Aerosmith as a card, the 2/1, the little bomber, if you've only ever like seen a dub or like don't know.
Oh yeah, little bomber.
Yeah. The Aerosmith is
my favorite stand.
Aerosmith is like an extremely powerful effect. The fact that it can just completely wipe your opponent's front row and back row on demand, and that alone is stronger than a lot of like sets. Sets can't recover from that. But when the rest of the deck is as it is, I think there's something there. I've been talking with Dean even recently about it. I would like wind pants with like little bomber and like you run some amount of off finishers, or they do have a climax swapper. It's not great, but like maybe you can play some of the golden experience top end. I don't know. I think that if you are going to play JoJo's, you are playing it for like the field nuke effects, whether you're playing Aerosmith or the enemy package.
Yeah,
I think that's the deck's niche. And that's what you should like sort of focus on. I think that if you nuke your opponent's field with Aerosmith and you're catching your opponent unawares, it could be very strong. But you're sort of building to just that because the set can't really support much else. I really wish there was more there, but
you think with Data Live coming, like 8 standby Data Live and all these 8 standby decks, do you think that like an 8-win deck of JoJo's could maybe be like a front runner, kind of like
Fugo into the
like one of the best 8-win strategies you could run? I don't think anything above JoJo's actually has 8-win as an option. Sakura does, but that's like actual garbage.
Yeah, I mean, Alicization has 8-win if you play Alice into Alice.
I think that JoJo's 8-win would be better than the.
It's on attack, and it's on attack at level 1, which means a lot.
It's an on attack cigarette.
Review has a more explosive top end. I wouldn't play 8-win. I think even if I was playing into a standby meta, I would play Aerosmith, because Aerosmith the board, which would be really good into stuff like that. Which, like, again, I think if you're playing JoJo's, you're playing for Aerosmith. I think C, in general, now that I'm looking at it, C is probably the tightest of any tier in terms of its, like, internal placement. I think these are all...
What do you mean tightest?
I think that all these sets in C tier are, like, almost, like, equivalent.
Yeah,
in
like
placement.
In order
like
here.
any of them could be at the top or the bottom is where they are. I think it's very close.
It's extremely close.
I think it's tighter than any other tier.
I can get on board with that. Yeah.
moving on from JoJo's, I'm depressed now. Apocrypha. I love this set, but I have to admit, now more than ever, it's so hard. Like, Astolfo is like such a crutch. You could play the Jean, but like Jean combo is like pretty whatever. And then you're giving up a plussing trigger. The like level flip down stuff is really cute, but like those profiles aren't even good enough anymore. Like the fact that they're free because like flipping doesn't mean anything. Like the card profiles are like not good enough. Like standby like half Milky Holmes deck like doesn't have a chance to shine anymore because its targets, even with the 1/2/1 cheater card, like aren't good enough anymore. So it's just like it just doesn't have a chance to sign. I think in trios, if you were able to bring this deck to trios and you were able to play the like super crazy finishing package, you could like have a niche on a team as like an aggressive deck.
What do you mean the super crazy finisher? Are you talking about like the dragon one?
Yeah. The like dragon cancel burn package
Like
where
pit
you like
stack?
yeah, you can like push really aggressively for game without expending a lot of resources.
I don't know. I don't know, man. I tried that deck. Like,
Deck's
no
sick.
offense, no offense to Kid or anything. It's a really cool deck. I just don't think it's like
Well,
as good as you were saying it is. I don't think it's like.
Well, I would mix it with the Mordred. I wouldn't go all in on the yellow package. I would run the yellow and the red finishing packages if I were playing the deck.
Like the Kit King build seemed like super stable, but I don't feel like I would want that in the third seat on my team trying to high roll. I don't think it's high enough.
I think it'd be cool. I like the set. I like flipping cards face down.
I mean,
you should play Vanguard. You'd love Vanguard, dude.
Fuck Vanguard.
Aside from the level flip effect, the set's pretty average. It's pretty vanilla. Just slam Astolfo, slam blue climax. Your opponent dies.
Yeah, but I feel like Astolfo isn't like really good right now.
Yeah, he's not. That's the problem.
Yeah, he's on reverse, right?
Yeah, if it wasn't the meta we were in, I think Fate Apocrypha would easily be B tier because it does have things that make the set strong, things that are unique. Has like the level down thing that I was just saying wasn't good enough anymore. It's only not good enough anymore because all these other things have power crept. Even that,
right?
Bushiroad, when balancing Fate Apocrypha, said that flipping a card face down in your level was the same value as spending a stock where they have multiple cards that flip your level face up. So like a lot of cards end up being quote unquote undercosted, which was carrying the set for a long time because it had a rough like 0 to 2, basically. Where it had like decent zeros. It had like what is it? Fucking Karen Krista, right? Like look at top. A1 clock yourself salvage anything or level 1 or lower, so like they had like decent 0, but like 1 to 2 was like pretty rough. There's no like really great early play, kind of like banking all on level 3. But yeah, it's Apocrypha.
I still like the red finisher. The red finisher's still pretty cool.
Yeah, damage modulation is always good.
Yep.
Wow, no game no life. Andy, tell us about No Game No Life.
I like it. It makes me really happy to play. I like No Game No Life a lot. Competitively, I think there's like a niche No Game No Life can exploit. I'm gonna be working on it. Me and Papa Squat on Encore decks. That's the other guy who brews No Game No Life. Papa Squat. Shoutouts. I always look at his deck list. He has some really good ones I take some ideas from. But I think like a Gibral word chain deck could be like.
I was gonna say a word chain, yeah.
I think that could like be actually really solidly positioned against like Data Live, Konosuba.
It would be really annoying for a lot of those decks, yeah.
Like really good at answering like decks that kind of go like plan to spend a lot of time at one particular level in the game. Like Data Live wants to have a bunch of fatty 2/2s, Konosuba and Attack on Titan with a lot of like Oboras lingering around forever at level 1. any sort of soul wall combo. But unfortunately, unfortunately, no game, no life. The rest of the cards around the deck, the glue isn't very sticky.
Yeah, the utility cards are a little bit rough.
There's also a lot of trait locking, like with Mob, or not so much trait locking, but like restrictions keeping you from like putting X and Y together.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Gurren Lagann, I think that I said all these sets were pretty tight in this tier, but I think Gurren Lagann's the last one. I think it's like almost right there at D tier based on the meta we're going into. I think that when Level Down exists, and when Blink is readily available, and when like all these things that allow your opponent to like either deny reverses or like ignore your field, like where investing in field is bad, when it costs you so much when you're not playing standby, you just like fold instantly. Especially when you don't have a lot of deck manipulation to cover. Like Gurren Lagann, all of your cards lose to Blink instantly.
Yep.
All of them.
Yeah, but see, I feel like I'm like kind of the opposite of you. I kind of thought Gurren Lagann would be like the top of C. Personally, I think the Kamina combo at level 1's like actually pretty solid. Like as far as Shimikazes go, I really like it. And as far as like the early play robot does lose to Blink and Level Down, but I feel like part of the big appeal of that package in the first place was the compression it gives you. It lets Gurren Lagann has like an alright first deck, but they have a really, really good second deck. And I think that's a lot due to, the communist going to memory and stuff, but also the robot just putting so much field compression so quickly. Kind of like you mentioned about Blue Yellow ReZero, kind of like a similar concept of just like immediately before they refresh, they're just going to put like a whole bunch of cards stacked under these robots on their field, swing 3 times, refresh their deck, and then even if you level them down, they still have that compression and have probably cleared your field. And their finisher's like good enough. That's my case for Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, seems fine.
I don't know. I don't feel like you believe me.
I feel like the finisher's okay. As I feel like just like the entire idea of investing in board when you don't have ways to like get yourself out of bad deck states, I feel like you'll experience like big fail cases more often than not, especially against these decks that like adequately deal with your board, destroy your board, or like ignore your board.
And I want to point this out too. Is the blink or level down thing, is that actually something that's like only Data Live, right?
Yeah,
I play the amount of Data Live that's running around.
I think I am being a little unfair. I'm just thinking like, okay, like if I walk into a regional, right, and I see a guy and he's like, oh, I'm really excited to play Gurren Lagann, and I turn to my right and I see the I look behind him. There's the 5 players with Dal just like grinning, like ready to farm him. Like, it's just like I don't know. I'm probably being unfair. I'm probably being too doomer, but I feel like there will be a lot of Dal, and the second Gurren Lagann sits down against Dal, they just like tear their hair out.
It's like a real bad matchup. I don't think their other matchups are like.
Their other matchups are fine.
I think Dal's like its real Achilles heel.
That's the hard one. Yep.
Yeah, it's like you have a matchup that's slanted in a set that's going to be popular.
Yeah.
Seems kind of rough. Moving on, D tier. Not going to spend a lot of time here. I'm going to briefly go over these real quick. Review. A smattering of modern profiles and not a lot of things to stitch them together. If we ever got a set 2, that'd be sick, because the set would just instantly jump up a lot. Because set 2 review is really, really good. Brings everything the set needs. But unfortunately, we do not have it, and you're stuck playing something into Kaoruko, and your things to get you to Kaoruko aren't great.
Karuko's pretty good though.
Yeah, Karuko is pretty good.
Mm.
Love Live notably has Stock Swap and Fumio and nothing else. But it has like halfway there profiles of like normal modern things, but like they're all understated, and like that has problems. But it does have most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there level 0 and 1 like actually fine? Isn't it kind of just like level 2 they really don't do anything?
0 is fine. 1 is a struggle. 2 also a struggle. 3 also a struggle.
I mean, don't they have the Minami at level 1?
They do have Minami at level 1.
It's not, because it gets like it's like 1,000 power under stat line.
Well, no, it gets the power cross turn instead, I believe.
Yeah, but it's like 4 or 5 without it.
It's just
it's
awkward
rough
to get a reverse with. Yeah,
it does have like double climax combos and stuff, which is pretty interesting. It does have that going for it. It has like we are a single light multi combos, because it has so many characters that key off the same stuff.
Do they have any early plays though that are worth playing, like at all?
They have changes that aren't good.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Yeah, Love Live is a in the era of change. They don't really have early plays, which is a big problem. Cinderella Girls, with really good level 0 utility, because it's unrestricted in English. Level 1, you're relying on Minami, so you're relying on reverses. You have some interesting stuff. You have the Ronco change package if you choose to play it. Level 2, kinda rough, and then level 3, Ronco and Anastasia. Pretty vanilla, right?
Pretty meh. Yep.
It has a really bad early play. You have the what's her name, Anzu, right?
Oh my god, she's my favorite girl got shafted.
Hey, at least they have an early play.
Yeah.
I think me and Ollie talked about this a little bit too, because like I play Cinderella Girls. He's giving me some tips. Like the blue red deck has the event card, the mismatch pair. It's like the 2/3 tap counter.
Yeah.
But you need 2 blue and 2 red characters to play it. So kind of a tough condition, but I think like the mono blue deck should splash for that still. Like you just have 2 brainstorms sitting in your back row.
Yeah.
2 of the I forget her name.
The red one.
Chieri, I don't know. 2 of the Conoco, that's her name. You have 2 of the Conoco brainstorms that fulfills your red requirement. The rest of the deck's solid blue. The tap counter is really, really good, and people always forget the set has it.
Yeah. Just a 2/3 event tap counter.
And it's like super easy to bluff for too. If you just have two brainstormers sitting in your back row, that's like super non-imposing. That's just like a normal game for so many decks.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's something.
People won't even think anything
to play
of it.
For. Yeah.
Yeah.
Weirdly, unlike the rest of like the tier, I think that the D tier is kind of the most rigid in terms of its placement. I think these are like very much above one another. Their placement. Batman Ninja. I don't want to fucking talk about Batman.
Ryan, you were talking so much good about Batman Ninja. You were advocating us to put it in C tier earlier.
I did say that.
Defend yourself.
I think, aside from the fact that Batman has really vanilla combos, they need a reverse at level 1 and they play restand at level 3, or you play you play the villain deck where you still need reverse at level 1, and you play last shot at level 3, last shot Harley Quinn. If you're in the Batman deck, you do get decent tools. You get the Ricky, you get JC, you get grappling hook.
Oh my god.
I don't even remember what else Batman has, but it's got Rest 1 Brainstorm, which is something Muse doesn't have. Love Live, I don't think.
No, they do.
Oh,
yeah, they do.
Their
Brainstormer is good. They have Ren Brainstorm, yeah.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, never mind. Batman deserves to be in D tier. It's pretty meh.
It's like, I don't know, over-reliance on a shitty, underpowered, non-selective, on-reverse climax combo, where the only trick is I can pop it to my hand so I can fail to get a reverse next turn.
Nah, man. You see, I think the deck for Batman is the villain's deck.
The
I mean,
villain's deck
that villain's deck is fine.
I think the villain deck is actually like solid. Like,
yeah, it's fine.
I think it crutches on the fact that it runs 8+ing triggers. It just runs bar gate, but the deck is just so like
it's fine.
it's blunt. It's a blunt object. Let me put it that way. It's very like very boring, very status quo. Shimikaze at level 1, last shot at level 3, play bar and gate, turn cards sideways, hit triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's a blunt object. It's not pretty, but I think it's surprisingly effective. But definitely D tier.
Yeah. Just play the monkey flute deck.
Monkey flute. Pot of monkey. Nishikoi. The absolute cutoff for like a deck that you could probably like feel rewarded piloting into a normal like English field. You have decent. Well, okay, you have okay level 0 profiles. You have okay level 1 combos. You have like decent, or not even decent. You have okay options at every level.
Carmen, those are synonyms.
Yeah.
Those are synonyms. You're like making a huge difference between decent and not decent. Okay, they're the same thing.
Yeah, well, like I don't know. It's just okay. Like
Yeah.
you have okay options at every
thesaurus.com, bro.
level. You can like play for like I don't know. You can play sweets. Sweets is probably better. Is definitely better actually than like door bar or whatever. Like the ski deck. Sweets at least has like Azusa, like Baby Fate, dude. It's got Azusa, it's got Free Fresh, and it's got nothing else. Nothing at all. Its level 1 combo says you can't play events, so it dumpsters AOT. That's your tip for the day.
Oh, broken.
If you have someone who only owns AOT or some shit, and you want to make them feel bad, you buy Sweets for $30 and you slap it down in front of them, and you say, "Okay, no events every time I play this bar." And they're like, "What?" And they're like, "You're not allowed." Which is pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, Sweets and the key deck are like totally fine. They're like the absolute cutoff for like playable, rewarding deck, or not playable, but like rewarding to pilot deck.
Yeah, it's D tier for decent decks.
I think playable is synonymous with like modern.
Yeah.
Going by like our
playable is just
previous statements.
The problem is that unplayable is mean, trying to be not as dismissive, but yeah, it's that.
I think I think Nisekoi at least has like all the modern day tools that you need to succeed. Like they have a brainstorm, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a tap 2, but they have one.
Yeah, they have a functional brainstorm, level 1 combo, level 1 plussing combo. They do something meaningful at level 3. And hey, they even have some like the really good old school tools that don't print anymore, like the Free Fresh and Azusa. So
yeah,
there's at least some draw to the set.
Mm-hmm.
F tier. We're only going to talk about 2 things. Trillia and Miku. Trillia and Miku are better than every other set in this tier, and that's it.
Wow, this guy a hater.
Yeah, I'm just.
My favorite set, Fairy Tail. You're not going to talk about it and why it could be good?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to everyone, but like I don't think even the most how do we beat around the bush even harder? Like don't play these. Really, at least you can meme out with like what is it? Kaleidoscope combo. And like if you're playing Miku, you can slam down Soundless Voice and have massive bodies at level 1. And like no one cares about either of those things. Like, even sets that are in the C tier could probably just completely ignore you if you were doing either of those and, like, still, like, just out card quality you. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth.
Yep.
Miku and Prilly are, like, 2 sides of the same coin to me. Like, they both really capitalize by going all in on a specific level of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Soundless Voice Project Eva deck, you windboard very hard at level 1, and then you just like ride that wave all the way to the end and just coast. Prolia is kind of like the same, but it's at level 3. You kind of just like maintain the whole game until level 3, where you just go for it.
Vomit your hand, yeah.
But both decks play really hard for like a single point,
a single level, yeah,
a single turn in the game, and they just ride that wave the rest of the time. I think like the only other set really worth mentioning in F tier is like Kill la Kill. I talked to you guys a couple tier spots on it, but the thing setting it apart from the rest of the other garbage is that it actually has a level 1 combo.
It has literally anything. It has literally anything to do.
I think they have a Brainstormer. I'm honestly not sure.
I don't remember. Honestly.
I don't know if they do.
They have an early play though. They have an early play.
Again, they have literally anything to do, whereas
they have 2 combos.
Everything else is falling apart at the seams. But yeah, that is the 2021 speculative tier list. I hope that everyone who saw the other retrospective video and was disappointed that we didn't go through everything, I hope that we hit on what you want. If you're worried about Disgaea and lower, we have a whole rush rundown that encapsulates
6 of this.
five of those 6 sets, and then we have a separate one for Haruhi.
No, Kill la Kill's on there too, right? No.
Kill la Kill has its own video.
No, yeah. Disgaea does too.
Yeah, Kill la Kill has its own video. Disgaea has its own video. So it's Angel Beats, Slaughter Ice, Baku and a God Tree, and Fairy Tail are all in one video. So if you want to learn about those, there are 3 rush rundowns you have to watch. It's only half an hour, which is less than the 2.5 hours we've already been recording. So if you want to learn about those, you can check those out. But yeah, we're not going to touch on them. They are unfortunately too dated.
When are we getting Fairy Tail set 2, man?
Literally
Fairy Tail had
never.
It had like a couple, like literally 2 really cool cards.
What, the tap counter and the one that burns both players? Yeah.
Oh shit.
The 3 cards.
No, like the 1/0 Aquarius that burns both players is actually a good card. It's like a really fucking broken card.
I mean, yeah. What is it? The Persona Q deck. The what is it? What's it called? Execution. Execution played that profile, but it was a 1/1.
They have that too. Players. Just like an on-play burn both players.
Yeah, I think it was a 1/1. It was red. It could have been costless. I can't remember.
I think Fairy Tails is costless, but yeah.
Yeah.
We need to just go back to the good old days.
Yeah.
We need to go back to like 2012 when like Fairy Tail was top tier because
everybody plays Fairy Tail with 8 gates. Yeah.
Symmetric effects are never fair. Is that the quote? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. Same slide we have at the end of all of our videos. Like we keep saying, we're at the mercy of Bushiroad for future content. Since we do not have any sets announced for English for us to review. The only other things we're working on is we're going to resume our deck techs every other Friday. We got Andy's Memory Snow coming this Friday, which you guys will be able to see. We're going to try to keep pumping stuff out. Only other thing I think in the pipeline is Jason and I want to do a pre-Kone deep dive, but other than that, we're going to just come up with stuff as we go. We got a lot of things we want to do, so hopefully we can get some more of our more ambitious stuff going.
Sakura Wars multi-deck tech.
Oh no.
It's in the works. I'm saying it so I don't like keep putting it off. I've had like a tab, I've had like a notepad on my phone, right? Like a to-do list like note thing saying like Sakura Wars deck lists. It's been there for like the beginning of January, and I just keep pushing it down the list. But I won't delete it off there because I really do want to do it.
You and Matt, let's like record something, send it to me. I'll just upload it without looking at it.
You sure?
There's no way that could go wrong.
No, definitely not.
The only other thing on here, I want to mention it. The developer gave me the go-ahead, weissfight.net. We talked a lot during the beginning of the pandemic where we were all on lockdown. How are we going to play Weiss? And the big thing was tabletop simulator. Well, now we don't need to play Tabletop Simulator. You don't need to buy anything. You just go to weissfight.net. You type that into your browser. It's just like Dueling Book. You make an account. Currently, right now, you have to use Encore Decks to grab lists that you want and import them into your account. And the second they're in your account, you can play with anybody. And there are even tools where you don't even need to be in voice chat with anyone. You can actually just go in the text chat the same way with Dueling Book. And you can play a whole game of Weiss. And it's all free. It's all in your browser. It's all sick. It supports English and JP. So you can play whatever you want. If you're waiting for cards, like I know I'm still waiting on my rental girlfriend stuff. So I've been like kind of testing some deck lists on Weiss Fight. And it's really smooth. It's really clean. If you're familiar with how Dueling Book works, like things are very fast, things are very snappy, very responsive. A lot less cumbersome and clunky than Tabletop Simulator because it's purpose built for Weiss. And if you're playing it, it's still in the early testing phases, but it's public. And if you have any feedback, make sure you join that Discord. I will also link that Discord in the description as well as with weissfight.net. The developer is insane. They respond to feedback almost instantaneously. They'll develop stuff immediately after you post it, and by the time that your current game is done, they'll tell you to refresh and your feature will be there. They're super on top of it, and the more polished it gets, the better it'll be. So please give that a look.
I could really see it being the next generation of online Weiss,
definitely
tournaments and stuff. Because I know Dueling Book will run tournaments through their software. Nothing sanctioned necessarily, but
just stuff for fun. Yeah.
Weiss Fight's infinitely better than Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah.
I'm not a TTS apologist. That app kind of sucked. We all just grinned and bared it, but Weiss Fight's actually really dope.
It was all we had. But now we got something better. So yeah, definitely check that out. And with that, I think we're done. You guys got anything to add before we close up here?
I don't believe so.
I was gonna say something clever, but I forgot.
Aw, rip.
We started talking about weissfight.net, and I forgot.
Oh well.
Weissfight.net.
Weissfight.net. All right, see you guys in the next one.
Weissfight.net.